Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Door-knocking knuckles. That's what they call it.
Oh,
hey!
look at that.
Do not adjust your computer screen or your television at home or your phone. This is Happy St. Patrick's Day, which I thought was fitting. I watched this morning the finish of the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass, and who do you think won in the overtime, the extra holes of golf today?
Was it Rory?
It would be one Rory McIlroy. Yeah. It's the third time he's won on St. Patrick's Day.
I know it wasn't Tiger.
It was not Tiger.
That man
Tiger's nursing that Achilles.
That man that had more injuries than he's
Doesn't it feel like that's it for Tiger?
Yes.
An interesting story on Tiger. If you read, there's a couple books that have been written on it, but one of the things he did in the prime of his career, he was actually quietly training to become a special ops member of the military.
Yeah.
Much to the dismay of his swing coach. And what he was doing to train for it was running like, and I'll get these numbers wrong, it was something like 10 miles a day in combat boots with a weighted backpack. So
Is that what blew out his knees?
That's what killed his knees,
Yeah.
but now they're saying that put way, way, way undue stress on the Achilles, which, his lower extremities have just broken down, and his back, too.
And his back.
That's not good for your back.
Right.
So at the end, as great as he was, he still doesn't, in my mind, eclipse Jack Nicklaus.
No.
And that's probably, he's a victim of his own doing in that.
How many majors is he behind?
He won 15.
He got to get to 19, right?
Well, just for context, Jack won 18 and finished second 19 times.
That's incredible.
Incredible.
That's wild.
It was absolutely. At a time when the golf field had more than just one major rival.
Yeah.
Arnold Palmer, Gary Player. The stars in the 70s and 80s, there were many.
Yeah.
And there were many different guys that won tournaments back then.
Before that golf club went through that back window, it was a foregone conclusion Tiger was going to pass Jack.
It was just when.
No question about it.
It was when.
It was when.
And didn't that one single event changed the trajectory of an entire sport?
Yeah.
Is he physically better? Was he physically better than him in his prime?
Physically?
Like as far as his skill set, as a golfer, was he better than Jack in his prime?
I don't know. I don't know.
How
that,
can you, I mean, he could.
The game had changed by that. The equipment had made
changed
him.
for sure.
They were a term Tiger-proof came to be because Tiger's length.
They started extending golf courses.
That's exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
So they were Tiger-proofing golf courses.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
I mean, he won the Masters by double-digit strokes one year. That's the biggest test in golf, period.
Yeah.
And the sport was reeling. The sport didn't know what they were going to do. Now, in hindsight, it ended up being the best thing for the sport because the ratings, at the time he came into the sport, the average winning prize was like $180,000.
And look what he did.
When he left it, the winning total was over $1 million.
Yeah.
So he's Jordan then.
He is absolutely the
for
Michael
sure.
Jordan of golf.
And who was it? Who was the golfer that he just broke? He was number 2.
I know who you're talking about.
VJ
No.
Singh?
No. It was another
Tall,
up and
skinny
comer.
guy.
He used to call him out all the time.
He was always number 2, and Tiger just broke him.
Yeah.
Adam Scott?
No. It'll come to me.
No.
Somebody
Yeah,
in the chat
I know
will
who you're
figure it
talking
out.
about.
Oh,
but yeah,
man.
he did.
Somebody put that in the chat, dog.
He put him
find
in his golf grave. Didn't think we'd talk about golf for
that
for
was
4 minutes.
that was weird.
But the overtime was fascinating today, and I'm a big golf fan. I know I'm probably the only one on today's show. I love this conversation. I love this topic. I don't know that I've ever heard anyone have it. Which professional sport is it most difficult to be a general manager? I've never really heard this debate.
This was a tough one.
I thought long and hard about this.
I texted 2 gentlemen who have held the role in different sports.
Wonderful.
To get their perspective.
I can't wait to get to this
I'll tell
topic.
you the answer.
I can't wait to get to this topic.
Yeah.
I have some strong
The
feelings.
answer, like they both answered similarly, and it made me laugh. That's
Wow,
awesome.
very funny. I think the easiest is baseball. If you're with the right checkbook.
Save it.
Okay. Also, Cavs streak over. That's where we're going to begin today. Hosey to the 2-hole. I know this has been discussed before. I know there are analytics that show this may be the best move. I'm going to tell you why it's an awful move, and I hope they don't do it. I'm afraid they're going to because Stephen Vogt publicly threw out there that he's considering it. Also, Browns quarterback, where are they going? The whole idea that they were going to get Kirk O'Bangs out of Atlanta, done, not happening. At least not for now. It's going to take a trade to do it. And also, not only did Russ leave Cleveland without a contract, he left New York without a contract. So now he's just kind of watching his phone, waiting for it to light up. So we'll talk about that. And Shaun King, I can't wait for this. Shaun King is going to break down Cam Ward. It's the first of
Six. And we're going to do one each day. So we got Shador tomorrow,
That's awesome.
Tyler Shook Wednesday, Jackson Dart Thursday, Kyle McCord in the YouTube show Friday, then Will Howard in the TV show Friday.
Oh,
so
good.
We'll get 6 this week from Shaun King. We recorded these last week.
How'd they turn
Nothing's
out?
changed.
Are you happy with them?
Yeah, we decided not to do a lot of the arrows and stuff because it was different kinds of footage for each quarterback.
Right.
It's hard to find college all-22 footage, which is where those arrows really are able to be displayed. And
Right, it doesn't
the
work well.
angles wide enough. So
Yeah.
we kept it simple,
Okay.
but Sean's great. And I'll give you a little sneak of this because we'll talk about it today. Sean sees a clear pecking order in the quarterbacks in this draft class.
He does.
Cam Ward, drop off. And then you have to listen to see who 2, 3, 4, and 5 are in
I
what
can't.
order.
So is
But
that,
it's Cam Ward 1, then a drop off in Sean's eyes.
so we can already guess if who we like because you didn't even put Jalen Milroe in there. You didn't evaluate him.
Sean said it was not worth evaluating.
See, look, I knew it. I knew it.
I've heard that from
I knew
other
it.
people too.
Wow.
I knew it.
Wow.
I know.
So
David Duval. That's a golf.
David
That's it.
Duval,
That's
you're
it.
right.
Yeah.
Trying to think of.
He broke him.
Broke him. Just mentally desecrated.
I ain't
that
heard
poor
his name
man.
in years.
He was a really good golfer.
If I'm not mistaken,
That one
Duval
time.
was the one that went through a really bitter divorce too.
I'll do
I
it.
think it was David Duval that had the bad divorce. I know Freddie Couples had a notoriously bad divorce.
I mean,
but
are there
think
good
Duval did.
divorces?
Well, sure, there are in this. A good divorce, a wealthy person who went through a divorce once told me, a celebrity once told me, because I wondered that too, and he said it was as good as you could expect. Here's what he said: if shit doesn't hit the media, and you come out of it still a wealthy person, that's a good divorce.
Yeah.
So, and those do happen, but I think it was Duval. Can't remember now. That's going to drive me nuts. I'll have to look into it. But the Freddie Couples thing was really, really bad.
Yeah.
She basically, it was her intent to break him financially.
Speaking of,
she damn near did it.
My condolences out to Iman Shumpert.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The judge.
What? I didn't hear that.
Oh,
What
he
happened?
lost. He lost bad.
Did he?
Divorce.
4 cribs, three cars. She got all the businesses, and he got to pay $8,000 a month. Now I ain't count nobody's checks, but that $42 million he got from Dan, that was a long time ago. Got $42 million. Him and Boobie Gibson, boy, them divorces be hurting boys' pockets.
Yeah. So there are good divorces, but I guess there's, like you'd like to say, there's those levels.
Oh, there's levels to it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before we jump into all the topics today, met a bunch of UCSS fans this week. I want to give one shout out to Charlie, who I met at the Cavs game yesterday.
Nice.
Watches from Illinois every morning. Wow. Drives to the Cavs. They're his adopted hometown team because he grew up outside of St. Louis, became a Cavs fan, goes to 4 games a year, came up to us pregame, said he loves the show, watches every day. So shout out to Charlie. And I also got to give a shout out to the Boomers. We've talked about my men's league team a few times. Yesterday, our point guard Josh put on the performance of a lifetime.
Wow, what do you have?
I've been around some really good shooting performances. Josh shot the shit out the rock so well yesterday. It ended up with 37 points.
Are you in the playoffs yet?
Next week is the final regular season game. We're tied for the 1 seed, playing another team that's tied for the 1 seed. So if we win next week, we clinch the 1
It's
seed.
like the Celtics and the Cavs.
Yeah, right.
So we played a team that was also in the top 3 yesterday. We ended up winning by 25. Josh had 37
God.
points. He was shooting shots behind his head, over his back, lefty, righty. Everything was going in.
Jeez.
I'm pretty sure that the Cleveland Heights community, their community board, city council, is in preliminary discussions to build a statue of Josh outside of the
That's wild.
after his shooting performance yesterday. It was incredible.
Maybe he'll get a day.
He played at Mount Union.
Nice.
Cheater.
He's really good.
Good.
And it was one of the most incredible things I ever saw. So I told him I'd give him a shout out today.
I
So
think
Josh,
we have to when
keep
you
shooting
make
hot.
the finals, I think we have to videotape these games.
I think Zach, the guy who comes in and takes pictures.
Yeah.
He said he wants to come out and shoot a game. So
and he
at
can
some
shoot
point-
video of those games too,
He
right?
shoots terrific videos.
Good.
He was at the
let's do
MAC
that.
Championships this weekend. Shout out
Oh,
to
nice.
Akron. We'll talk about the March Madness bracket in overtime.
Nice.
Shot some video of the Akron championship
Did you
game.
get a chance to
Did
talk
awesome.
to Legs yesterday?
You know what? I had to leave early. I didn't realize Legs was on the call.
Yeah, no,
I missed our cross
I
pass time.
thought I had texted you. We were supposed to have dinner Saturday night and drinks, and I got called out of town, so I couldn't do it, which sucked. But he said he might be back in for the playoffs. But I thought for sure you might introduce yourself
I
to him courtside.
totally forgot that he was there
Okay.
on the call. Next time he is, I will definitely introduce myself.
All right.
And with that, let's get into our first topic of the day, guys. But first, FanDuel has you covered for all your March Madness needs. The brackets are out. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. I've got my eyes on a few underdogs this year. Akron, 13 seed. They're going to upset Arizona in the first round.
I like that
And if you
call.
want to bet on any of the underdogs, FanDuel has the best odds on the market. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Let's start with the Cavs, though, guys. A 16-game win streak came to an end yesterday. The Cavs, for the first time all season, lost a game that they led and/or were tied entering the fourth quarter. They're now 48-1 on the season when leading entering the fourth quarter and/or when it was tied. Jason, you and I were there yesterday live watching it unfold. Is there any big takeaway that fans and the media should be looking into after this loss, or was this simply the case of the Cavs had won 16 in a row and they missed shots down the stretch for basically the first time all season?
Yeah, they're going to lose games once in a while. Like it's going to happen.
It does happen.
And they had some good looks. They missed some looks. Kenny talked about they kind of got out of their offense a little bit. They went heavy ISO at times. Some of the ball movement went away. Orlando, even with their injuries, is a big physical team. And for as good as the Cavs are, for as deep as they are, for as versatile as they are, if there's one thing, if you're an opponent of the Cavs and you're like trying to scout this team out for a playoff series, the only thing left that you can really circle is we want to really get into them, get physical with them. And Orlando did that into the third quarter. They turned him over on 3 straight possessions. They got into Ty Jerome a little bit. He turned it over twice. They got Donovan for 1. And Kenny said that felt like it killed the momentum and it turned the game, and it did. Because the Cavs were in control of this. They had, I think it was a 13-point lead in the third quarter, middle of the third quarter.
Yep.
And then 3 turnovers, boom, 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 turned into 3 Orlando
third
baskets.
one was awful.
Yeah, and that really sort of turned it. And then the fourth quarter, then at the end of the game, they just missed some shots. So, we'll get into a little bit more about Orlando specifically because that could be a playoff opponent. I don't know if there's a necessarily overarching theme to this. I mean, it's one loss. You're not going to panic over a freaking loss in the NBA. Most teams, even the best teams, lose 20 in the course of a season. So, but the one thing that you just sort of want to circle and keep an eye on is just here's another example of a team that really kind of got physical with them because in the playoffs, refs let it go, and refs are going to let these teams play. So here's another team that got up into them a little bit, got physical with them, pushed them around a little bit, and had some success with it.
I think I'm really excited about this loss. I know that seems crazy for you to say why you're excited about an L, but I like the L because this is a great opportunity for the coaching staff to get in there and highlight the same things that you talked about and say, look, guys, I know we've been winning a lot of these games. We started off slow in some games, and we've been able to pull it back and pull out these games late in the fourth quarter. But this is the type of physicality you're going to see going into the playoffs. These are the type of scrappy teams that are going to muddy the game up, play physical, knock you off the ball, and try to get in your head, so to speak, in terms of their pressure. I like this because now they can point that stuff out on film. Now you can say, hey, we're not invincible. And if you play like that, we can get beat. And good coaches, and I'm sure Kenny will do it, is saying, because sometimes when you're winning games, the process and how you're winning games kind of gets buried a little bit because you can win some games on talent and you can start to get to a point where you feel like, Doesn't matter if we turn the ball over, we'll get it back. We shoot very well. You know, we'll knock down some threes. Somebody will save us. Somebody will get hot and we'll hit some threes. No. And the thing that got me, and the thing that I've been seeing a little bit more, it hasn't been prevalent. It's not like it's crazy or anything. But this game is a perfect opportunity to show people this is what happens when you play iso ball. When you get stagnant and you go one-on-one versus teams with set defenses and with big teams like Orlando, they're going to make your job a little difficult. So, and then the last thing that I looked at is you can't be fast and loose with the basketball. I mean, any high school coaches will tell you that. You cannot be careless with the basketball. Those 3 turnovers, the back-to-back ones, that was the game. And they lost that game within that little stretch. But if you look at it throughout the game, they had pretty much dominated. They were doing what they needed to do, had the lead going into the fourth quarter. They usually dominated doing that. But I like the fact that now there's some coaching points, Jay, that people can really point to, and it brings us down a little bit to say, look, if you play certain ways, you can't get beat. And so just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, I agree with you, G. I mean, you always hear teams say, well, that, it was a good loss. In some regards, it was. Orlando they took us to 7 last year.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, this is just a matchup that I think is the kind that gives the Cavs
Absolutely,
fits.
yes.
And I thought Orlando, during the course of that third quarter run, where the Cavs saw a 10-0 lead evaporate in like 2 minutes, and particularly on those 3 straight turnovers where it was an 8-0 run and in the blink of an eye, you're like, what just happened? Legler was saying during the broadcast that before the game when they were talking to Kenny, they had asked Kenny, is there anything about this team that scares you? And I thought they were going to say, well, yeah, the matchup isn't great. Look what happened last year in the playoffs. But instead he said, yeah, they're desperate. And I thought that was appropriate. Orlando's a desperate team. They would love to get into the 7. I don't think it's likely enough for them to get into the 6. But this is why this could be dangerous for the Cavs. And I'm not gonna dwell too much on this, but I don't think they can beat the Cavs 4 times in 7 games. No. I just don't. But I do think that the Cavaliers do not want to see this team in the first round. And the way things are kind of shaken out right now, it's a very likely first-round matchup. And I just don't think that would be good for the Cavaliers. I would like to see the Cavs have a first-round matchup where they either sweep or win it in 5. And I'm not sure they can sweep Orlando, and I'm not sure they can beat Orlando in 5. I think they would stretch them to perhaps 6 games. And that's just unnecessary basketball that they don't need to put on their shoes.
Of the 4 teams in the play-in situation right now,
yeah,
you're right, Jay. The Hawks, who are in the 7th seed, are 5 full games back of Detroit with about 15 games.
Yeah,
some teams have 16, some teams have 14.
That's a big ask.
Yeah, so the top 6 is most likely set. Mm-hmm. So as it stands right now, Atlanta's the 7. They're a half game ahead of Orlando, who's the 8.
Yeah.
Orlando is then 2 games ahead of Miami and 3 games ahead of Chicago, who are the 9 and 10 seeds.
So they would host that play-in game.
Orlando
would
play Atlanta first. The winner of that gets the 7.
No. The 7 and 10 play and the 8 and 9 play, don't they?
I thought it was 7, 8, and
no.
then...
I thought the 7 and 10 played and the 8 and 9 played. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
I could be wrong. Hold on.
Well, I think of those 4 teams...
It is. No, I'm right. 7 plays 8.
That seems odd. Why would they do it that way?
Because you only need to win 1 game.
I know, but...
7 plays 8. The winner of that gets the 7 seed. The loser of that then plays the winner of 9-10.
Well, see, what's wrong with that is the 8's going to have to play a road game, while either the 9 or the 10 hosts a game.
But then it's at home for the 8 seed.
Right.
I understand that, but
you play 1.
You're giving priority to.
You get 2 to win 1 if you're the 7 or 8. You get 2 games to win 1.
Yes.
And if you're 9 or 10, you got to win them both.
Yeah.
But I actually like Orlando to beat Atlanta. I think Orlando will probably wind up.
I think they're a better team.
I think Orlando would wind up as the 7, which would make Atlanta, who's beaten the Cavs a couple of times already this season.
They're not a great matchup for the Cavs either.
But Jalen Johnson's out. They're a very different team.
They are. That's fair.
I think it would be fun for Cavs Atlanta first round just because DeAndre Hunter's here now and
that's true.
Niang and LeVert are there. So I think
that would be a really good first round.
Either way, I don't think those other 2 teams are going to get this. So either way,
But one of them's going to win. One of the 9 or the 10 could likely win.
But then they have to beat.
I know they have to beat the other team,
Yeah.
but
So I think it's going to be Orlando, Atlanta. It's just a matter of the order.
Okay.
7-8.
yeah.
If they got to go to 6 games, so be it. I like it because
I just don't like putting the miles on your
Mike and I
legs
were
in a
talking
first-round
about that.
series.
Mike and I were talking about that yesterday during the game. The one thing, and this is a different team, so it doesn't matter quite as much, but still, you want the rest. The one thing that the previous championship era figured out was they could smack these teams early and get a week off their feet.
Right.
And we went through and looked at the history of how many times those teams swept series. Atlanta pushed them to 7. They're LeBron's last year here, but there's a lot of series, first round, second round, that were sweeps, and then they got a week off because that was an older team that needed the rest.
Sure.
I mean, these dudes like 5 years old though.
Yeah, they're younger. They can do it, but you'd still, to me, it's if I'm just
The fewer
plotting the
games, the
perfect
better.
course, it's going to be quick, short, easy series in the first round.
I would like it. I would like it to be. Of course, if you ain't gonna play, and I'd take a sweep. But I do feel like there's something to be said for having hard series and understanding the level that you're gonna have to play at.
Yeah, I'm
And
cool
you'll
with
get
that.
that.
I'm
Yeah.
cool with that in
Yeah.
the
You're
finals,
gonna-
in the conference
The
finals.
one thing that, when I was writing the book on the championship, the one thing that Griff said to me that really kind of stuck with me is he said, winning the championship is a war of attrition.
Yeah.
And you're going to get beat up. You're going to have injuries. Guys are going to be exhausted. It's the hardest thing you can. And LeBron said 100 times, winning the championship is the hardest thing you can do. So the easier you make it on yourself in the early rounds,
The better.
The better it's going to help you in the later rounds
Yeah.
because it all stacks up. And I've talked about before about you shorten your rotation because you have multiple days off between games, especially in the first round. Sometimes you have 2, I don't think 3, but I think you have 2 days off a lot of times
Yeah.
for TV purposes in that first round. So you can extend guys extra minutes, but it's still a load that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And April leads to May, which blends into June. So if they can get an easy, I don't think that they would sweep Orlando. Orlando I don't think can beat them in the first round because of the injuries. If they had both Wagner brothers and they had Jalen Suggs,
Yeah,
you
that'd
got
be-
a series.
Yeah, that'd
and for as much improved as the Cavs are this year over last year, and they are, like they're significantly better. That is an Orlando team that took them to 7 and was up 18 on the Cavs in Game 7 here. But I just think Orlando has too many injuries. But they're big, they're physical, they are not scared of the Cavs, and they will go right at those guys' necks.
I feel like that is a real budding rivalry. I felt that game yesterday was played with a lot of intensity.
It was.
Ty
And
Jerome and Banchero talking
Yeah.
smack to each other.
yeah,
was awesome.
And of course, Wagner is always going to bring out the hate in the opponent and the opponent's fan base. You know, I again found myself reaching into my "I hate this guy" bag of tricks.
Yeah.
Even though I don't want to, but I think this is just one of those matchups. Now, Mobley not playing obviously
Yeah.
has a
Huge.
lot to do with the way that game played out yesterday. If you start to close your eyes and envision the way a series would unfold with everyone healthy, I obviously like the Cavs a lot more with Mobley in the lineup. But I just think it's going to be a very tough matchup. I'm not going to, hit the panic button over yesterday's loss. I didn't like it, but it wasn't an awful loss. It was to a desperate team that caught a team perhaps back on their heels without one of their best players.
Man, I'm giving them one. Y'all gonna get one game if y'all play.
All right.
Good
Yeah.
luck, Orlando.
It's worth remembering these two teams
One.
played about a week and a half ago before yesterday
Yeah.
in Orlando.
Yeah.
Cleveland beat them by 40.
Much different game.
By 40. Now,
One.
Evan Mobley didn't play yesterday. Last night, the Cavs did not have their best game by any means. They missed some
Mitchell
shots
was,
down the stretch.
man, he was bad
First
shooting
game
the ball
back.
down
as
the
a
stretch.
team, they're missing some more threes than they had. DeAndre Hunter had a good look at the end, hit the side of the backboard. They missed down the stretch. If you go back and look at their clutch possessions, the Cavs have been the best clutch team in basketball, bar none, hands down. Not just this season, but their numbers in the clutch this season have been historically good. They have a plus 36 net
They
rating
came back
in
to
clutch.
earth last night.
Incredible, and that's due to happen. They're bound to have one game where
Yeah.
they don't dominate in the clutch.
Right.
But if you go back and look at the shot selection they had down the stretch, Jason and I were talking before we got on the air today. They had some good looks. They just missed shots
They did.
in the clutch. And
Yeah.
sometimes the process is more important than the results because were the Cavs able to generate decent looks in those moments against a bigger, I don't want to say more physical, but equally as physical Orlando team? Yeah. And Donovan Darius, DeAndre Strus, they've made those shots all season. They missed them yesterday. Anyone freaking out over the result of yesterday's game for the 11th loss of the season on St. Patty's Day,
Yeah.
take a chill pill.
Let me tell you
They're
this.
okay.
when the postseason comes, I really don't even care about too many stats. But if Jared Allen and Evan Mobley is listening, your stat that means the most is in points, rebounds, or assists. It's how many times the refs go to the center table and say, we got to see if this was flagrant or not. I need 5 apiece from y'all in the playoffs. 5 apiece. You need to be going over there like, yeah, we got to check this out. Listen, hey, don't get to the Draymond point where you get 12, 13 in the postseason and get suspended. But Jared Allen, I need you to go upside somebody's head a few times, like on accident. And, hey, no intent. I was just going for the ball. Like, you need to set a tone with the Magic because they think that they really can beat you. Look at that. He got to retaliate on that. Like, listen, goon ball is alive and well. So I need y'all to be figuring out which one of them.
Foul. I don't know how that.
Yeah, I was shocked it wasn't a foul.
And trust me, if you get certain refs during the playoffs, they ain't calling none of that. We ain't gonna say no names.
They called last night like a playoff game. I thought.
Yeah, they did. They let them play. It was physical.
And by the way, today's St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying they have 11 losses at St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
when you said
through St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, no one saw that coming.
I mean, it's been
no
incredible.
one saw that coming.
And to Mike's point about the shooting, this is two of their worst shooting games have been recently. I think Brooklyn, they shot it poorly. And then this one here yesterday, and there may be a little bit of regression to the mean. We kept saying all year, this team's shooting out of its mind.
Here it is, it's almost 70 games.
And we got to the point of like, well, I guess this is who they really are. And now, finally, there's a little bit of regression.
Yeah.
And the key for them is going to be when their three's not falling, how do you win games? And they have plenty of ways to win games. They are great defensively. Yeah. They have length now with Hunter that they didn't have before. But there's going to be games where you're not making threes. So what are you going to do? How are you going to win in those nights?
Dang, Dean Wade, man, he be waiting right to St. Patty's Day. I ain't seen Dean Wade hit a shot in 6 weeks, it seemed like, bro.
He had a 3 last night.
Yeah, 1-3. I need him to get back on track, bro.
It is important to notice, too, or point out, that when they're not making threes, not having Evan Mobley changes the complete complexion of their offense because he's the one big they have that can create and get into the paint without someone creating for him. And last night, Tristan Thompson played 11 minutes. If there's one weakness on this Cavs roster, it's that they don't truly have a third legitimate big. Dean Wade can play the center. He's not a center.
No.
DeAndre Hunter can play a small ball big. He's a wing. When Tristan Thompson is your first big off the bench because Evan's having a rest day,
you got a hole.
that is a little bit of a roster weakness in the overall construction of this team.
Yeah, they're one injury away from counting on Tristan in the playoffs.
Does this change the way that they go about was there any inkling of them being like, we're going to play our guys to try to go for some records, and does this put them in a position
to go for?
But,
They can't break a record.
They can't break a record now. They'll set a team record. What's the team record?
The team record.
66?
The team record.
Yeah,
so
they
could get to, I mean, they still have we're going to talk about 70
we're going to
later.
talk about the chase for 70 later, so we'll
I would not use any extra steam going for 70. It means nothing. There's no trophy for 70.
And I think they've done a good job of managing minutes of resting guys and sitting guys.
So far.
They're not going to change that now. If anything, they're going to throttle back.
The only thing, I think the big question is how much energy will they expend to make sure they get the number 1 overall?
I think that's almost decided.
No.
Oklahoma City's.
Oh, I thought you meant in the East.
Yeah, what is that?
No, Oklahoma City.
They're half a game ahead of OKC.
Yeah, right now it's very, very close.
Oh, no, we got to still win.
So that's what you're keeping an eye on. You don't care about 70. You don't really even care about 66.
Oh, we got to get that.
You need +1 of whatever OKC wins.
I need that.
But you don't do that
not at the peril of health.
Yes,
I agree with that. You want it.
I'm telling you right now, home court over Boston is far more important than home court over
I agree
OKC.
with that 100%.
And OKC is loud.
OKC is very
I have been there.
I have too for finals games.
Yes.
And it is a madhouse.
Yeah, it's all they have.
Yeah.
It's literally all they have
That's
for
it.
sports.
There's no football. There's no baseball.
But I will. There's something about Boston and New York. For you say what you want. The old Oracle, Madison Square Garden, and Boston. You want no part of in a Game 7.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And although, I mean, the Cavs obviously won a Game 7 Oracle, but they had the monster on their side.
Sure.
But in a situation like this, it's not as important with OKC as it is with Boston.
I agree.
We'll come back and talk a little more Cavs a little later in the show, but we're going to pivot to the Browns. Before I do that, we have a new sponsor. I didn't ask you to do this beforehand, but I need a new sponsor sound effect. You give me a sound effect for a new sponsor here. Make it up on the fly.
Wow.
Dang, I don't even know what the sponsor is. It could be.
Are you that dude from Police Academy that used to make all those crazy sound effects?
I know. I've never been a sound effect guy.
All right, G, we have another new sponsor coming up for our next read, so you have 20 minutes to think of a sound effect for our second.
Well, what is it pertaining to?
I could make an elephant noise.
How about this? We'll do the reads, and the second hour we'll have new sound effects.
But let's can't ask him to create a sound effect for a company he doesn't know about yet.
Let's introduce you guys to one of the newest sponsors of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, a Living for We podcast. What happens when a regular day at school turns into the worst day of your life? Unfortunately, that's a reality that is happening way too frequently in today's world. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in America, and in communities of color, the impact is even greater. Every bullet fired creates two victims, the person in front of the gun and the one pulling the trigger. Living for We, Keep Your Head Up podcast is an award-winning show that focuses on real stories, real struggles, and real solutions in Northeast Ohio. New episodes drop every other Tuesday, where you'll hear from host Marlene Harris-Taylor and her new co-host, Maisha Watkins, the executive director of the Cleveland Peacemakers. No one does a better job of bringing you stories from the front lines, victims, survivors, and those fighting for change. Each episode, they sit down with different organizations that are working to end gun violence and provide resources for those affected by gun violence. Whatever kind of help you need, there's a person for you to contact. Listen to Living for We wherever you get your podcasts, or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. You can learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/livingforwe. Subscribe today to Living for We on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you guys check out the Living for We podcast series. In Browns news, Russell Wilson came and went. No contract offer was made. He visited the Giants. No offer was made to the Giants. Kirk Cousins is still a member of the Atlanta Falcons, now the most expensive backup in the entire league. And after his press conference on Friday, Myles did a podcast with the Cleveland Browns. Andrew Siciliano hosted the podcast. And Andrew asked Myles if the Browns had given him an indication of what they're going to do at quarterback next season. Here's the interaction between Myles and Andrew Siciliano.
In all seriousness, do you know who the quarterback's going to be? I mean, do you have an idea?
After conversations, I do have an idea.
Okay. Do you like the idea?
I like it enough to be here smiling in front of you, because I think we have a good chance of that happening and making the most out of it.
Can you tell us who it is, Myles?
You know I can't do that.
That felt like the Jim Gray LeBron decision to me. You know what? You remember like the back and forth like they had? I don't know.
Exactly.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Man.
I love that Andrew asked the question. I mean, he knew he wasn't going to get an answer. But
first of all, that sounds like Shador, right?
Sounds like it.
Like that sounds like that was my initial reaction.
Why you say that?
Because if it's a veteran quarterback, if you're Myles, if you're saying like I like it enough that I'm sitting here smiling, wouldn't you want the quarterback here first before you signed?
You want to know who it was.
Yeah.
I think.
Like, how do you know that it's not going to – like, if it's a veteran, I don't know what veteran would possibly make anyone on this market say –
I'm excited.
I'm in.
Or, yeah.
Right. So that tells me that it's somebody with the draft. It's somebody in the draft.
Yeah.
So my initial thought was Shador.
And I still think that Tennessee's taking Cam.
Yes.
So,
but is a rookie quarterback really enough to make an 8-year veteran say, you know what I mean, with the miss rate on these guys,
and he's been through a couple,
and this isn't even considered like one of those can't miss generational type talents. None of these guys are.
That's why he said that he's going to make the most of it.
I'm just kind of confused by. I was just kind of confused by the whole thing.
Let me translate all of it for you. I have $40 million in my pocket for my play next season. I'm fine with whatever.
3 years
they do
from now, not next season.
Whatever they do from now, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make an average of $40 million over the next 4 years. Peace out. G. Bush can be quarterback. I love me some G. Bush at quarterback. He gets up under there with his big body. Blue 82! And nothing like G. Bush at quarterback.
I'm never going under center.
Could you be the short yardage quarterback?
Hell yeah. Well, back in the day he could have.
I think I'm trying to figure out like how many hits before my life force is gone. Like I think it would take days off my life. Like I think literally maybe 2 yards and then I'm done. But I don't want to get into that. But this is very fascinating to me because I've kind of dropped back. You know what I'm saying? My knees are planted solidly on the ground at this point. No knee-jerk reactions from G. Bush. I'm just interested to see what they're going to do, Jay. I don't have no idea. They might get Shedeur. They might.
I felt the same thing. I don't know why I did. I felt like I don't think that he would have, if they've told him, look, our plan is to get Will Howard in the 2nd or 3rd round, or we're going to take our chances and see who's left between Dart and Howard and some of these other guys. I don't think he would be as excited about that because that's not really a plan. That's a wish.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
A plan is something that you feel that you can execute.
You're going to get with the number 2 pick.
And you're going to get it with the number 2 pick. And I think that the conventional thinking now is, this could be wrong. We're just making guesses. But I think the conventional wisdom right now is that Tennessee is going to take Cam Ward, and that would leave Shedeur Sanders. And the question specifically was about quarterback.
Right.
And if it doesn't include one of the 2 guys that are up top, then it's a hope, not a plan.
Now, do you feel like the Russell Wilson thing was that a move by Russ to inflate his stuff, or do you think the Browns actively brought him in? Because I just feel like it's weird that he took these visits, and usually when quarterbacks take visits, they sign somewhere.
I haven't been able to figure the Russ thing out because I told you guys when I was in Indianapolis. That was the first time leaving the combine. That was the first time where I was like, yeah, okay, I think they're headed toward quarterback. And then this Russ thing came about, and it didn't make any sense because you are not signing Russ Wilson and taking a quarterback at 2.
No.
Those two
so
plans
Russ as
do
a
not
bridge
connect.
is out.
Well, I just don't. Russ ain't coming here. I was talking about with Tyvis. Russ ain't coming here to be a backup.
No. Well, what if the plan is to have like in Atlanta? I don't know what the hell Atlanta's doing, by the way. I mean, last year with what Atlanta did by paying Kirk Cousins all that money and then drafting Penix,
I'm confused.
I was just floored by that.
You already have. Well, that's a whole other topic. But you already have the Atlanta guy in Kenny Pickett,
right?
Because you can start Kenny Pickett the first 3, 4, 5 games, whatever. If you want to bring the guy along slowly, you can't do that with Russ. If Russ is coming here, Russ is coming here to start 17 games.
The only thing I would say is perhaps the Browns have learned a very valuable lesson. And I know, even though it worked out with, I keep trying. What the hell am I doing? You're so true, Jason. That's why I love you when you're on the panel opposite me. I'm saying conventional wisdom has to seep into their brain every once in a while, and I don't even get the full sentence out of my mouth. And Jason looks at me like I just grew 3 more heads.
Finish your point.
Well,
how did they learn a lesson?
You're right.
How did they learn a lesson?
So my thinking is, my hope is that. And even though the Baker thing worked out, they didn't start him at first, and then but he had to be started because of the injury.
Yep.
I wonder what the plan would have been with Baker had there not been a need to play him.
The plan was to sit him that entire first year.
And see
that was the plan.
And that's why I bring this up.
At one time.
I know. But because of the injury, you had to put him in there, and it worked out okay. Now, they have also gone through situations where they've drafted guys early that were not ready and they played too early, and it absolutely not just wrecked that season, it wrecked their careers. So my thinking here is, particularly because I thought they had learned their lesson coming into Baker, let's draft the guy and let's pull a Green Bay. Let's just let him learn. Let him watch.
But Jay,
and that's why Russ would be a viable guy.
But if they brought Russ in like that, they don't want. I get the picture that they don't want no turmoil in the room. They want plain. They don't want no problems. We don't want too much. So why would you have Kenny Pickett? Kenny Pickett got his job taken by Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. You go out and give a 5th round pick. You gave something up to get him. You bring him in, and then you hear him say, "They said I could compete." Then the very next breath, they go get Russell Wilson, who's a veteran, who's technically coming off a Pro Bowl season for the Steelers. He's going to come in here too. You know he wants us to start, and then you're still going to take how would you put Shedeur Sanders in between that?
Well, that's why the Russ thing just doesn't. It
don't make sense.
Either they're doing it as a favor to somebody, or they're trying to put pressure on Atlanta to show Atlanta we have other
Right.
options. I think there was more to it going on, or Russ wanted too much. I don't know. The Russ thing really threw me. It just didn't make a whole lot of
I don't
sense.
think money for Russ is going to be an issue. He's got a lot of dead presidents.
He does, but
Thank
that
the
doesn't
Denver
mean he doesn't want
Broncos for
more.
that.
Because he left New York without an offer,
I think
too.
at some point, and I don't know if he's at that threshold, I would think that he is, just from an observer standpoint. At some point, it's more about putting the cherry on your legacy, getting another chance to start and perhaps win. I would think that would hold more value to Russ than a couple extra $1 million.
Yeah.
What is that going to do
But look at
for
the
him
teams
now?
that he's visiting. Are these teams Super Bowl contenders? The Browns
No,
and the
but
Giants?
they're teams that give him a chance. In Russ's
They
mind,
give him an opportunity to play.
I believe
Yeah.
that Russ is in this mindset right now. You give me the right situation with the head coach that lets me do more of what I like to do,
Yeah.
not Denver and not Pittsburgh. You put me in the right situation, and hell yeah, I believe I can still take a team deep on a playoff.
You're probably
run.
right, because
And that's what you're supposed to think.
Yeah.
Especially in the NFC. Like you
In the NFC, absolutely.
Here you go to the Giants. You looking at it, you like, listen. I like Dable. I like his offense. I got a number one receiver, and it's New York. I'm sure my wife loves that. Like
You're third best in your division immediately.
Yes.
Like you're not passing those other two. I don't think you're passing
No,
those other
but
two.
No.
if you go to the AFC,
You-
you're looking up at Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
We know the long
We
list
know
of
the- we know
quarterbacks.
them.
Now,
You're-
Washington has had a pretty good quarterback.
You're third best in this division too.
Yes, you're right. You're
So,
third best.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. The Russ thing, I don't think I said last week, I'm sure people probably killed me for it, but I'd rather play Kenny Pickett than Russ. I don't know where playing Russ gets you. I don't know what you accomplish by playing Russ.
Yeah.
Well, it all
you're
depends,
on
I
the-
think, on who we bring in here out of the draft.
I think if you bring Russ, you're not taking a quarterback at 2.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think you do either.
Yeah.
Look, I stand by my plan from 2 months ago.
Which is
I think they're taking Abdul Carter.
You
I-
think they will, or you think they should?
I think they will.
Will, okay.
I had said 2 months ago when the Brown season ended, I had said on this show, now obviously it took a detour because right after the season, when Myles said, we're not as far away as you think, I had done math, no insight, no, I didn't talk to anybody. I just had figured, okay, what would get him to that spot? I think what got him to that spot was the Browns said, look, we are going big on help for you. No more double teams. Imagine what you can do, Myles. You were the defensive player of the year and damn near 2 years in a row, drawing more double teams than anybody in the league. What's going to happen when we put another, not a free agent signing from Minnesota, when we put another legitimate star defensive lineman on the other side for you? How does that change your life? Now you're not just talking defensive player of the year talk. You're talking about amassing the kind of numbers that's going to put you in the conversation for the greatest of all time.
I still
Now,
think they're doubling them. Even with Abdul Carter on the
Go
other
ahead.
side, you're
Yeah.
still
listen,
doubling Myles.
it's
Yeah.
a pick your poison. And you know what Myles is saying? Double him, and you got another guy over there, then that guy will get 15 sacks.
What if Myles Garrett says, listen, hey, that sounds nice. The kid might get 15, 12 sacks or whatever. But get me some offense around here. Get me somebody that can score some points. If I give you the ball back on the fourth quarter, can you go down the field and score touchdowns? That's what I want to see. For me, I love Abdul.
But who's that guy that you can wave the magic wand and say that one guy is going to add that?
Well, if I had the quarterback, if I was getting Russ, I would draft Travis Hunter, and I would draft a running back right after that. I would go super offense.
I don't know. I mean, my plan was I thought that they had quelled his concerns by saying they're going to get him major help and they're going to address the quarterback in round 2, and there's still going to be some serviceable names. Maybe they brought up Will Howard, who, again, when you talk to some people that have a pretty good track record at analyzing future talent, Kurt Warner said it's not even close. He went back and looked at the last 4 games of all the quarterbacks, and he said, yeah, this isn't even a race. It's Will Howard. He makes every throw needed on the NFL level. He's smart. He makes great decision-making. He played in a pro-style offense with pro-style NFL wide receivers that he was throwing to, and he was putting throws in bread baskets from 55 yards downfield. I think that you could get excited about a guy like that, especially if you're going to have the opportunity to sit him for a year, behind a guy like Kirk Cousins or even Russell Wilson, learn how to be a professional because there is a learning curve to that. Who knows? Why couldn't they do what Washington did?
If I got him in the third round and I still got Travis Hunter and I still got one of the top running backs and I get him in the third round, I have no problem with that if you got Russ.
If it works out, but you're running a lot of risk if there's not another team out there that feels the same way you do.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's a gamble.
So let's put a bow on this topic with this.
They do have the 33rd pick.
Yeah.
It is March 17th, Jay, at 11:44 a.m. Myles says he knows who that quarterback is going to be. I'm not asking who you think Myles thinks it'll be. I'm asking who you think the quarterback. Obviously, information will change over the next 5 weeks, but as of right now, 11:45, March 17th, who do you think the Browns' Week 1 quarterback is?
I don't think it'll be either of the first two, and I think it would be a survivor of the other guys, who I think Will Howard is the most likely guy, because I do think, originally he was a third rounder, then after the way he played in the playoffs, I'd heard him mentioned as a potential second round guy. If he's a potential second round guy and he's on the board and you're taking at 33 and you need a quarterback and you like this quarterback,
You take him
then
at
you
33.
take him.
Yeah.
You take him at 33.
So you think he'd be, even if they draft him, he'd be the Week 1 starter? I'm asking, who do you think
No,
he'd be the Week 1
I
starter?
don't think he would be the Week 1 starter.
So does that mean Kenny Pickett in your mind is the
I
Week 1?
still am holding to the idea that they're going to bring in Kirk Cousins.
Cousins. Okay, G. March 17th, 11:45. Your best guess for the Browns' Week 1 quarterback.
Shedeur Sanders.
Woo!
Jason?
Either Shedeur or Kenny Pickett.
And I think
So they're
it's
done
close.
bringing in a veteran. Then there'll be no other veterans brought in, or Kenny will outplay them.
Honestly, I would go get Desmond Ridder and Trey Lance.
Oh,
And just
wow.
have an open
Hey,
competition.
No, this is wild. This is the first time
Yeah, Cook with this.
I've been saying I don't understand why will no one give Trey Lance? I mean, the kid,
I've watched him play.
but I'm just saying it's a flyer.
He's been awful.
He's
but
been-
as a flyer, what do you have to lose?
He's
How
played
many
like 2
has he
games.
started?
He's
How
played
many
3
games has he
games or
started?
something. Like,
I
He's been horrendous.
yes,
and
he very well could be Josh Rosen. Like the Cardinals knew right away.
Yep.
Oh my God,
What'd
we
we
made
do?
a horrible mistake.
Yep.
We have got to get off this.
I mean, Kenny
and the
Pickett-
Niners did the same thing. And maybe he really is that bad. But Desmond Ridder started what? Maybe 15
couple
games.
You've had Trey Lance has been on 3 teams.
The Cowboys.
The
Cowboys and Niners. That's it. Cowboys and
Okay,
Niners.
2 teams.
And the Cowboys said, "We've seen enough. You're free to go."
Yeah, and the Niners.
I'm not
said
saying
that.
he's the answer. I'm
Yeah,
saying
no,
he's 24.
I understand what you're saying. Look, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah.
Bring them in. Let's see what we
right,
have.
right.
I mean, at this point, what do you got to lose? I really like Kenny Pickett as like a veteran, grown up in the room. I don't think you were here. I called a coach who knows him really well.
That was last Friday. You said that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you were
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And said, great guy, great in the locker room, great leader, not much of an arm, no confidence.
Yep, I remember. you said
So
that.
maybe you can rebuild some of the confidence a little bit. You worry about the arm, obviously being in December here on the lake. You got to really drive some of those throws in that stadium. But as just a veteran in the room, I think you got your guy. And from there, I'm with G. You want to draft 2? Draft 2. You want to bring in a couple street free agents and
Yeah.
check them out?
Make it
but I don't understand
quarterback
getting-
palooza. Just
I wouldn't bring in a 36-year-old. But I would bring in a guy who's young, who's cheap, who's got a little bit of road in front of him still, maybe, and maybe you get lucky because at some point you got to you would think in 25 years you're going to get lucky.
And
at some
isn't
point
that
on one of
allegedly Kevin's fastball? I mean, we saw him use
these.
5
He won
different
with
quarterbacks.
PJ Walker.
Yes. So
He can't.
if that's his fastball, then
don't-
go ahead, bring in Trey Lance. I don't care if
Trey Lance may not survive training camp. Fine.
Yeah, then he's
Fine.
gone. You kick the tires on him. But here's the thing that I tell you, this has me second guessing myself on quarterbacks all the time. I think I said this Friday on Channel 3. I may have talked about it here a little bit too. What happened last year in Minnesota kind of breaks the paradigm on the way the league has thought about backup quarterbacks and quarterbacks that were drafted highly but then washed out of the league. It changes the paradigm because when a guy is on the proverbial junk heap, which can we all agree that's where he was,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
and he comes to Minnesota and wins 14 games and plays like a Pro Bowl quarterback all year long, you kind of have to start thinking if Sam Darnold can do it, there's got to be other guys that the league has given up on or is prepared to give up on right now that might be able to find magic in a bottle with the right coach in the right system.
Minnesota had a lot of talent.
They had a lot of talent.
Addison and Jefferson.
I know.
Jay, can I simplify your statement into
sure,
a statement?
Yeah.
Situation is almost more important than anything else when it comes down to a quarterback.
Well, but you can't create skill set where it's not there.
I'm just saying Sam Darnold had the same skill set in 4 different spots, and in the right situation was able to blossom in ways he had in prime.
No question.
By the way,
but it might have had more to do with a coach. We've heard this before. A coach just unlocks a guy's potential.
By the way, man, a great philosopher once said, situations will arise, but you got to be smart about it.
You know what they said about Sam Darnold, I mentioned this Friday, I know I did, that he famously said, I'm seeing ghosts. And everybody said, that's it, end of the career. He's seen ghosts.
Yeah.
To the Kenny Pickett point, if you can rebuild him and get his confidence back and let him realize that you can still make those throws. In Pittsburgh, they broke you. We're here to rebuild you and to see what you have. I don't know that I'm told Kevin Stefanski's the guy that can do that. We've seen him do it with certain guys. So why not? Maybe they will have 5 quarterbacks in camp, and let's just play it out and let's see. You know, it's a real life talent show at NFL quarterback.
Can I throw you? I know Mike wants to move on. One little curve, circling back to the Will Howard at 33.
Okay.
If there's a guy you like at 33,
yeah,
You got to trade up to get him.
bingo.
Yeah,
Go
absolutely.
up to 32.
Yep.
Just to get the extra 5th-year option on him.
100%.
So
even if especially if there's no fear that they're going to take him at 32. That extra year of control by whatever asset you give up is completely worth it.
If you're at 33, go to 30, 31, whatever it is, just to get the extra year. If that's the route, I don't think they're going to go that way. But if that's the route, I think it would be a mistake to sit at 33 and take a quarterback at 33. If you really like him,
even if it's a quarterback, if they love a guy at the end of the first round, trade up and get that 5th-year option. They have 13 picks now with the compensatory picks in this draft. They're not going to have 13 rookies on the 53-man roster. If you like guys, go get your guys in this draft.
Give away those late-round picks.
How do you nail it? Go get the guys you really like. Yep. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. Today's show is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the wins easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way, because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hard-working minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That is www.easierwithepicor.com.
And that's easy money.
I like it, G. There you go. The post sound effect. We talked about this earlier. Let's play it. Shaun King and I sat down. We did 6 quarterback breakdowns for his top 6 NFL draft prospects. Today we start with his number 1 quarterback on the board, and that is Cam Ward. Steve, let's take it. All right, it's always great when we get a former NFL quarterback to help us break down whoever could potentially become the Browns' next quarterback. Shaun King, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, correctly identified Jaden Daniels as the belle of the ball in the 24 NFL draft. So, Shaun, we're going to go through 5 different quarterback options here and figure out who's the best one for the Browns, and you're going to give us a little insight on what you like and what you don't like about some of these guys.
Well, here's what's interesting. Last year's class was really talented and really deep. I don't think this year's group is as talented or as deep, but that doesn't mean that we can't find quality NFL quarterback play in this class. So let's start with Cam Ward, who I think is unquestionably the number 1 quarterback in this draft. All of these kids are going to be productive coming out of college for the most part. They're older because of the COVID year. The offenses, the game is all geared more towards production. So statistically, you have to be careful on falling in love with a quarterback. And I think when you're really acute at evaluating, it's about traits. And as we get into the Cam Ward field, this is what I love about Ward. The most arm talent in this particular class, the most improvisation skills. And what I really like is he's going to multiple programs and turn them into productive and winning teams. Haven't been able to win a championship yet, but he's proven that he makes your team, your organization better.
So with that, Shaun, let's dive into a couple of plays. These three all come from Miami's game this season against Cal. Ward ended the game with 5 touchdown passes. None of these are actual scores. We picked some plays that you may not have seen yet to get a better understanding of what Cam Ward brings to the table as a prospect. And I'll let this roll. You tell me when to stop it, Shaun, and break down what you see here from Cameron Ward.
Well, as you let this roll, just for context, you go ahead and start it, Mike. Remember, they had to come back to win this game. A lot of it was because some of the mistakes that Cam made. But we talk about football IQ. We talk about identifying coverages. And we go back to the sideline right quick. And you can see from the end zone, you see that safety running over there. This looks like a basic cover 2 look. But what they're really doing is playing cover 2 to the field and man to the boundary. If we go back to this is a combo coverage here by this Cal defense. Cam Ward realizes it. And this is what I love about him. That ball is right on the button. Like, he makes this decision. A great job of recognizing it. He sees the corner squat, so he doesn't know how to out route, and he has the arm talent to put that ball accurately with velocity to that outside receiver. So I'm telling everyone, Cam Ward is unquestioned the number 1 quarterback in this draft. He's not my number 1 player, but this is one of the reasons. Recognition, arm talent, he has it all.
And Shaun, real quick, when you mentioned arm talent, from the end zone angle, you can see it pretty well here, but that's a half step and let it rip. It's not like he's stepping into it, and certainly finds enough velocity to deliver that all the way to the numbers from across the hash mark.
Absolutely, and this is why I was really surprised that he didn't throw at the combine, because he has that it. Like, when you see 5 quarterbacks throwing side by side, like, you can tell the ball comes out different from a certain guy, and Cam's that guy. So I actually was pretty surprised that he didn't throw at the combine. But like you said, this is just one example. We're going to see a few more of his ability to really create torque and put velocity on the ball without having to step into his throws.
All right, play number 2 here, Shaun. Same game, and Cam Ward once again showing off that arm talent that has many scouts calling him the unquestioned number 1 quarterback in this class.
He is. I mean, he's talented. I think if he's in last year's draft, New England's got a real conversation between him and Drake May, because I think they're kind of very similar. He's a little more experienced than Drake, but from a skill set standpoint, you know, they're pretty similar. If you want to let it roll here, you know, rhythm, like, not a lot of guys can make this throw and do it accurately. And watch how effortlessly Cam does it. You know, that's just like he's out, you know, playing pitch and catch with you, Mikey, at the local park, and the ball catches it in the end zone. And like, all of these guys can't make this throw without putting complete torque into it. So, I mean, you see this jump backs already in the National Football League as far as arm talent. Like, so you're getting a piece of clay that has elite traits.
All right, Shaun, we're doing 3 plays for each quarterback. This is the 3rd and final play from the Miami-Cal game for Cam Ward. And after listening to you from the first 2 plays, it seems like in this draft class, it is Cam Ward, then it's everybody else.
Yeah, and I think it's a large separation, in my opinion, between whoever's going to be number 2. And we'll get into that as we go through the clips of some of the other guys. But the underneath coverage in front of the deep coverage, and does it with great ball location, great torque, velocity. Not a lot of Cal. You see they got a guy running off. And I'll be honest with you, I'm glad that happened, because one of the only hesitations I have with Cam is I think sometimes he's a little too free at quarterback. He's a little too carefree, I guess careless at times. It doesn't really result in a lot of turnovers, 39 touchdowns, only 7 picks. But he will have to mature slightly with some of the things that he does, just from an antic standpoint. But the talent is unquestioned.
Well, we know where he stands on him. I mean, he likes him clearly as the best quarterback in this draft. My whole problem with it is, are you going to bank on your entire future on taking the best guy in a subpar quarterback class? I'm just not excited about this class. I wouldn't be excited about whomever they draft. I just wouldn't. I think that there's opportunities for all of those guys to become good NFL quarterbacks. Timing is everything. And last year would have been the year to be sitting at number 2, not this year. And because of that, there's still great players in this draft at other positions. I don't know that you want to look back 5 years from now and have them say, what were we doing taking a quarterback number 2 in a bad quarterback draft?
I think sometimes, in a vacuum, when we say we're not excited about the quarterbacks, or we're not excited about the people coming out, there's a level of responsibility that goes on your coaching staff that they have to take average players and make them good, and good players great. Like, that is, it's just not a ball of clay that just comes from college to the pros, and then it's just the prospect's job to get good. No, we talk about the Guardians all the time. Like, I don't know why we don't look at it the same way in other sports like basketball and football. The Guardians take people all the time and turn them into really good pitchers. Guys who've had Tommy John, guys who've bounced around the minor leagues. They get them and put them in their program, and those guys are good. So to me, I know it's the most difficult position to get right and to figure out. But at some point in time, if you want to be a head coach in this league, you are going to have to stake your claim on a quarterback. Now, for the Browns, they've had opportunities to do that in other ways. Baker didn't work out, right? Okay. Deshaun Watson didn't work out. Okay. You didn't go after those guys. That wasn't Kevin Stefanski's doing. But he has an opportunity to get the best guy in said draft, or one of the best 2 guys in the draft, and develop them and make something out of it. That's all you can ask for, right? Timing sucks, but all you can ask for is the opportunity to go do it. And he's going to have to show and prove that that's what he can do.
Am I crazy when I look at Cam Ward, I see early career Deshaun?
No.
Not at all.
In terms of, they look so similar.
Especially that powerful throw outside the numbers.
Yeah.
He plays like he used to play.
He looks a lot like Clemson Deshaun and early Houston Deshaun to me. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. That's a really good quarterback.
You aren't kidding.
You know what he don't like, Jason? Big Nuggets can tell you this. Here's what people don't like when he said he does some immature antic things. So Cam Ward will scramble, right? He'll be 5 or 6 yards, 5 or 6 steps from out of bounds. And he'll slightly trot, a.k.a. / walk out of bounds, while the defenders are chasing him. Yeah. Right? And he does things where he'll throw off his back foot, and it'll look like he's just throwing the ball. He does that
pretty frequently.
He just no look type stuff. And it's okay, you can get that off in college. But if you are a quarterback guru, I know you had to see those type of plays when you was cutting the film up, because he does it 2 or 3 times a game where he's out of bounds and he just kind of walks out of bounds and he kind of flips the ball to the ref. And they're
One of the things Shaun said on that, is Cam Ward hates, and he used the word hate, and I think when you go back and watch, I think it's actually an appropriate word, to throw the ball away. He will tiptoe around the sidelines and try to make something out of nothing in situations where throwing the ball out of bounds, living to see another down is probably
he's going to have to learn how to throw it out of bounds, or it's going to be going the other way.
You aren't kidding.
And I don't think Kevin Stefanski wants that. If you look at the turnovers that they've had, even for Flacco, 13, 14 turnovers. Yeah. Jameis Winston, turnovers.
The reason Jameis Winston is not back on this team is because of the turnovers.
Sure.
One touchdown, 10 interceptions for DTR. I don't think he wants that style of play. I don't. I think he wants Shedeur Sanders. I think he's just listen, I know he may be more popular, or he has more potential. I think he has better traits. His arm may be better. But Shedeur don't throw the ball to the other team. Now, what Shedeur will do is take a sack when he don't need to.
Honestly, and this may be a severe oversimplification because this sounds harder than what I'm going to make it seem. If you can get to the third read and you don't throw it to the other team, you can win with Kevin can win with you. That's it. Get to the third read because somebody's going to be open. If you can process to the third read, get to the third read, don't throw it to the other team. He can win with that.
I think that's what he wants.
I mean,
did P.J. Walker process to the third read? I'm being genuine. Like I'm genuinely asking that.
I
Was
think
that kind of the exception.
I think PJ was probably like a 2-read.
Yeah.
2-read and throw it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he certainly wasn't.
But if you can get to the third, and there's a lot of guys you could say that about in the NFL, but if you can get to the third read and you need the protection hold and all that, I get it.
yeah.
But and Shedeur, like I see a lot of reasons why Kevin would like Shedeur.
Shedeur will stand in there and take the sack, man.
He's tough as hell.
He is tough.
And he's not going to be afraid of the moment.
Yeah.
He'll deal with the scrutiny. He grew up the son of Dion. Like he can handle it. He can handle the stage. He doesn't throw it to the other team. He's accurate. There's a lot of things that I think that Kevin could look at and say, I can work with
He
that.
reminds me of like, and I don't know if anybody has said this. He kind of reminds me of like a Brock Purdy. Like he's not super arm strength, but you know he could get the ball there. Like he's not uber athletic, but you know he can get out of traffic a little bit. I just think he's more of a drop traditional. But listen, I think
I've heard some Jimmy G comps. G.
I listen. I like that one too. I just think people think when you hear Shedeur like he's some gunslinger.
No, he's not. No,
That's not. He's not a gunslinger,
No, he's
bro.
definitely not that.
He's not that.
Hell, how many times was he sacked last year?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but a
It
lot.
was an
His offensive line struggled. mightily.
extraordinary
was it
number.
Lewis? Was it Lewis? I think it was Lewis Riddick who said he did some of their games and saw Dion like pleading with him on the sideline. Throw the ball away.
Yeah.
Stop getting pummeled. Like,
Yeah.
throw the ball away.
Because
That
if you
kid's
take
tough,
that kind of
man.
a beating in the NFL, these guys are 40 pounds heavy.
You're not going to last a season.
They're faster. They're going to put you on
grown-ass
the
men.
IL.
You're getting hit by kids in college. You're getting hit by grown men
Yeah.
in the NFL.
yeah,
He was
it's a big
sacked
difference.
52 times
that's-
in 2023 and 42 times in 2024.
It's 100 sacks in 2 years.
And
Yeah.
at Jackson State, 35 times as a freshman, 23 times is his sophomore year. So in 4 seasons, 35, 23, 52, 42.
Nearly 160
Is
sacks.
is it just me? And I'll just ask you guys. I'm kind of excited to see any new quarterback. like,
Well, after what you've been eating for the last-
right? I just look. If they wanted to get like, and this like not that I'm excited about Kenny Pickett, but like. At this point, I'm like, listen, if you want to bring, Cam Ward, okay, Shedeur, Dart, you like Will Howard?
If you look at the number of quarterbacks we've seen in the last 2 years play football for the Cleveland Browns, I'm not excited to see another one. I'm excited to see a good one under the age of 38 that doesn't throw interceptions.
If you get me 24, anything under 25 years old, I could have hope in that.
28.
Yeah, because
28.
I could have hope in that.
27.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want 38.
Yeah,
Right.
like at least give me a couple games because
And that's why. Listen, that's why I said Trey Lance and Desmond Ritter. Just throw out
they
some.
fit that bill.
Just throw out some camp bodies. They may not make it to the end of August.
Right.
Okay, fine. At least take a look at them. Nobody else is interested in them. Take a look at them. But if they go into the NFL season with Kenny Pickett and 2 rookies as the quarterbacks on this team, I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
At least I got something. I'll
If they draft 2 rookies, fine.
I go to camp and you know what we'll do? We'll drink the Kool-Aid. we'll get the
We'll
Kool-Aid
have them
going.
13-4 by September 1st.
Right. We'll have we found our franchise quarterback.
Now, you said you weren't going to do that this year.
Nah, I listen.
We're going to have to bring G out of
Bring
like
me-
Hannibal Lecter. We're going to have
bring
to
me
strap
back.
him
March.
But
Okay,
it's
it's
March.
March.
Listen.
strap him to a 2-wheeler with a ball gag.
Yeah,
because-
listen, I'm trying to. Because boy, if they give me 2 quarterbacks, I'd have been sold $2,500 a piece for both of them. 2 quarterback systems we've been doing.
Operation
it's in
Stockpile.
15 touchdowns each.
We got
Talking about
package
Shedeur.
on the goal line. Come on, man.
Speaking of Shedeur, Sean will be back tomorrow with his Shedeur breakdown, so make sure you guys tune into
I'm
that.
curious
We
to
got
see that.
Tyler Shook
Yeah.
on
Curious
to see what he
Wednesday.
thinks.
That's a good one.
Of
But
Shedeur
tomorrow
and
we
Shook.
got Shedeur on
I mean,
deck.
Shook's another one.
He's
Shook's
another
a name that
dude.
keeps
He's
climbing.
rising.
Yep.
All right, we'll get back to the Browns tomorrow. We've done
violent.
enough Browns talk today. We're going to get back to the Cavs. But first, you can follow the NCAA basketball tournament all month long with the Bracket Breakdown series on the Amazon Fire TV channels and with the Locked On College Basketball and Locked On Women's College Basketball podcast. Just look for the Bracket Breakdown on the WKYC Plus app. It's up there now. Today's show also, as always, sponsored by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers customers can get $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's going to cut down the nets. We have John Fanta coming on the show tomorrow to help us break down and pick a perfect bracket. The FanDuel app is simple to use. When you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get on the college hoops action all tournament long. We talked about the Cavs in the micro earlier. Let's talk about them in the macro now. 56-11 on the season, G. Bush. We had talked about the pursuit of 70 wins and whether or not that was possible, plausible, what their chances were. Only 2 teams have ever won 70 regular season games or more. At 56-11, they have to go 14-1 over the final 15 games to reach that 70-win club. Is that still in play for the Cavs, or should that be just a secondary thought completely behind all the other things that they have to get right before the playoffs?
Man, I'm just trying to get. Listen, if I could get it, I want to get home court. I want to get home court in the East first and foremost. That looks like that's going to be a lock. I also want to get home court during the NBA Finals, but that's going to be tough because Oklahoma City is just as good as the Cavs, and it's towards the end of the season, and the way the Cavs is playing this thing is they've been sitting Donovan Mitchell. A couple of nights ago, they sat Hunter and Jerome. They've been giving other people. The only guy that hasn't really got any time off is Jared Allen because he says he wants to play all 82 games. So I think Kenny is going to allow him to try to do that. But with that, he's been very limiting his minutes down the stretch. You see now you get to a point where you're seeing less and less Allen and Mobley on the floor at the same time. And so it's going to be a difficult thing to get to 70. I'm not really pressed about it at the end of the day. It's just about making sure everybody is ready to go. I still want to see Hunter in the starting lineup. I still want to see him be able to play with those core 4. Now, we don't know if he's going to do that. I do believe that he's going to go into the playoffs and he's going to start Max Strus until I think he's going to give Max Strus the leeway until something looks bad, until somebody torches him, or the Cavs may lose a game or something. And he said, okay, I'm going to put him in the starting lineup, line him now to get him acclimated. But other than that, I'm not really worried about the 70. You can't beat the Warriors. They can't get their record. And, 66 is cool. I think that's the franchise record. But I ain't really pressed about it.
If I'm the Cavs, I'd probably, if I had to pick a number, and I don't think they're thinking this way. They're going day to day. But if I'm the Cavs, I would pick a number of 67. I think that gets you 2 things. It gets you the team record, and I think it also gets you the number 1 overall seed. There's no guarantee that'll happen. I don't think that Oklahoma City is going to they'd have to go like 16-3 down the stretch, something absurd like that, which is doable. These are two of the best 3 teams in the league. But I think if you wanted to go for something, and I don't really subscribe to that school, go for the number 1 overall seed. That is a goal that's attainable. They've already locked up, for all intents and purposes, they are the 1 seed in the East. There's there's a tiny path for the Celtics to pass them. It includes them basically winning 90% of their games and the Cavs losing 90% of their games, and that's not going to happen. So I think they're locked up in the 1 for the East. That's your main goal. Jason said this earlier. It's far more important they have home court in the Eastern Conference Finals than it is the NBA Finals. All that being said, your mission isn't to make it to the NBA Finals. Your mission is to win it. And there is no question you have a better chance winning it if you get 4 games at home instead of 3. Doesn't mean you're going to, just improves your chances. So if you're going for a number, go for that.
Are you sure Oklahoma City's making the finals?
No, not at all. In fact, right now the Lakers look pretty damn good.
Absolutely.
Golden State looks pretty damn good.
Absolutely. That's my point.
Yeah, right.
OKC is the only team that you would lose. You're in any threat to lose it to anyway, and there's no guarantee.
None.
OKC makes it there.
Especially the way the Lakers are playing.
That's a good point.
With Luka, now I know LeBron. They've taken a turn down since LeBron's been
LeBron
hurt,
wanted to go see the state championship.
That's
game.
exactly right. When LeBron comes back, they're going to be I said this to somebody a couple of weeks ago after watching them twice with Luka. I said, they're a championship caliber team.
They're a problem.
And this person looked at me like I was nuts. I said, what? I said, they are a championship caliber team.
Yeah.
LeBron is still LeBron. He's not prime LeBron, but he's still LeBron. And can he be prime LeBron for a 7-game final series, yeah, I think he can still do that.
Luka got to the finals last year with Kyrie. Who is a better teammate to get to the finals, Kyrie or LeBron?
Well, there you go.
Yeah, SGA can get 50. Somebody else going to have to do something.
Oh, and they have the
They got
got a
him.
deep team.
They got him. Don't
But
disrespect
to
him.
Jason's point, if you're in the West and you're projecting who your opponent might be, it's down to 2 teams. If you're in the East and you're looking who it might be,
There's 4.
It's at least 3 and probably 4,
Yeah.
if you're being honest with
Yeah,
yourself.
I would pick OKC to make the finals. If
I
you're
would too.
Gun to the head, you
Safe
got to
bet.
pick somebody. I'd pick OKC.
But
it's
Golden
by no
State-
means a lock.
Golden State is better since the deadline.
Since Butler.
The Lakers are decidedly better.
Yeah.
And the path to the finals, to me, is more difficult in the West just because there's more teams that can
And
get
I'm
in.
telling you right now, I'm not.
Yeah, Joker.
I'm not. I was just gonna say.
Yeah,
I ain't
don't count them out.
Do not count out championship DNA.
right.
Denver's still there. Houston's the
matters.
second best team in the West. We haven't even mentioned
I know.
Houston.
I know.
So
the
there's-
West is a beast.
Yeah. So that's a long. So I guess that's a really long-winded way of saying I don't care what the Cavs record is at this
Yeah.
point. It doesn't matter. Now 66, 67 would be nice for what you said. It's a franchise record. Like you've done something now that no LeBron team did, and that's important, Dan.
Yep.
Dan still wants to do things that LeBron never did.
That's right.
So winning 67 games is a feather in that cap. Obviously, winning a championship without him would be huge for him. But
That's crazy.
That would be Dan's cherry on top.
it would.
I mean,
100%.
Because he would have been able to not only do it without LeBron, but do it while LeBron is still playing
still
in the
active
league
in
and
the
still
league.
a factor.
Imagine beating LeBron. To do
Oh, my God. That would be, if he beats the Lakers in the NBA championship, Dan can ride off into
Talk
the
about
sunset.
victory laps.
Yeah,
getting
that
statues.
is
God
it.
in heaven.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna lie, bro. If Cavs win the championship without LeBron, they creeping on the Browns. I'm telling you, they creeping.
I don't think anybody will ever surpass the Browns.
I didn't say surprise, but they're creeping.
No, yeah.
If I got, think about it. If I am the younger generation. If I'm a young person and I say, yo, what do you want to go to? You want to go to the Cavs game or a Browns game? But I'm picking the Cavs.
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, but the masses still go with the
I
Browns.
see it with my oldest in his generation. The Browns have lost a generation of fans.
I've
said it before. My oldest is Alexander is 23. And those guys and their young I've mentioned this before.
don't care.
They don't say
When these guys have expendable income 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you think they're going to buy season tickets to watch that crap?
No way.
I got little
Because
cousins.
it's been crap their whole life.
Absolutely.
I got little
they're not
cousins
even
that-
fans.
no,
There's some that are.
no.
Of course there are.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that aren't.
I got cousins that don't even like. If you say Browns, they're like, "What is that? Like, why would I like?" They don't like the colors. They don't root for them.
Yeah.
They don't turn the TV on Sunday. They are in another world.
The Browns
Are the Cavs filling that void? Like, the Browns losing interest, is that Cavs gaining, or is it other teams outside of the
They
city?
keep hanging banners, yes.
I mean, LeBron created a generation of basketball fans that previously did not exist in this
Here.
city.
Yes.
Yes, in this city.
And now you're getting a second wave of that.
Yes.
With the
And-
younger kids today.
And you're bringing back people that was pissed at LeBron for leaving during the decision that said, "I don't like the way basketball is played." And then now you got a team that with a bunch of likable people, and they like the way. So now they're like, "Oh, I like the Cavs. I watch them." My mom didn't really watch the Cavs too much after LeBron left. Like my whole family was like, they watched the Guardians, and so they watched the Guardians, of course, the Browns. But I'm with Jason. There's a lot of young people.
The Browns are being propped up by our generation.
Yeah.
That's it.
40s and above.
And we're aging out.
And I don't want to paint with a broad brush here and make it sound like nobody in their 20s likes the Browns. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But it's not what it was.
Jason, there was a time when me and all of my friends, our Christmas lists every year, this was mine. Anything Browns, I don't care.
Facts.
I
I
don't
remember that. Fact. Anything
Baseball
Browns.
cap,
Anything.
wool cap
Anything.
with the beanie on top.
I ain't heard a list like that in
jacket,
a minute. Anything
sweatshirt,
Browns.
Yep.
just that was it.
Yep.
And because obviously it was in that heart, not just the heart of their season, but it was in the heart of the playoffs
Yep.
coming around the corner, and they were always in the mix. This generation, first of all, they're fashion conscious, like LeBron used to say. You got any orange and brown suits?
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
You look good in orange and brown.
Yeah.
Does anybody look good in orange and brown?
Yeah.
I love
He's been on
LeBron's
that for
rant
years.
on that.
You should hear it off the record. What do you
Well,
have to say
I was
about
there at the facility one day when he was off the record talking about it.
Yeah.
And he,
That might have been the day, actually, because there was one day where he just went
well,
crazy.
I'd asked him a question about it, and he looked at me and he goes, "You got any orange and brown suits in your closet?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No." And he goes, "Why not?"
That might have been the day.
I was there. I think you were there.
There was
I
one
was
day.
in for, it might have been media day when he came back. And he was done.
Yeah.
And then he was just holding court.
Yeah.
And it was all off the record. And he said, he goes, "You got an orange and brown suit in your closet? Why not?"
Yeah.
Does anybody ever put on anything orange and brown and say, "Now I feel good"? And he was right.
Yeah.
And so this younger generation, it's okay if they've won 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls, then they make that color scheme cool. But when you suck and you wear colors that suck,
Yeah.
you feel like you.
And plus, they got a different experience than we do. Like the Bills fans have a completely different experience because, yeah, y'all lost last year, but guess what? You have a new year and
They're
you got a
winning,
quarterback.
and they're in the hunt.
Joe Burrow and them, like,
And their colors are red and blue.
they have somebody they could be like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we get excited about Josh every year. For the next 10 years, they're going to be
Mahomes.
relevant.
Hey, Pat, you know what? Look. I know you lost to the Super Bowl. We'll be back. Lamar Jackson. Hey, look, those guys every year they feel they're going to be back. We never have that. So you got to deal with that, the colors, and taking L's, and you ain't got nobody to cheer for, bro.
Yeah, it really is an interest. And here's the funny thing: they're building a stadium, or there's a plan to build a stadium that's going to be there for a very long time, and their hardcore fans are dying.
Yeah.
The vast majority of their fan base has seen no more than 5 playoff wins in their entire lives. The vast majority of their fan base.
Look, think about it. We started hearing those. I'm not lying to you. I used to always hear people, because you guys are older than me, they talk about losing their parents, right? And their parents, he'd be like, my grandparents' parents didn't get to see a championship. And I always thought, well, listen, I'm like 20.
You'll see one.
He'll see one.
Yeah, now you're 40.
Now he's 67. He getting up there, and now it's like, well, dang, that might not really go down like that. It's just like
You get desperate.
You be like, come on, what are we doing here, bro? We look, and every single year that passed, that's why when people get so angry about these rebuilds don't just be rebuilds. These are milestones.
Another lost opportunity.
You're passing in your life.
And what's crazy is that we're going to talk about which sport is hardest to be a general manager in. There is no league more set up for everyone to get their chance at winning
Than the NFL.
Yeah.
Look at the Lions.
There's 32 teams.
It's like a Ferris wheel.
It's like a Ferris wheel.
You're
When
gonna go down,
when you're
but
good,
you're gonna come back up.
You should be down here in the talent acquisition
But you're going to
cycle.
come back up.
Yeah.
Every team is on the Ferris wheel except one.
And here's what's frustrating.
The Browns
to me.
are in the corner throwing up in the trash can.
Since the Browns were relevant the last time, the Bills have gone through 2 relevant cycles.
Yeah.
The Steelers never leave
They
the
never
relevant
got off.
cycle.
They never got off.
They're on the Ferris wheel for life. They're setting the record.
And the Ravens who were us became the Ravens and never got off the
Ravens
cycles.
have gone through 2 different Super Bowl winning efforts, and they're in a 3rd right now. And they used to be us. And so in a league where you're saying, if you do the math,
The Lions! The godforsaken Lions!
If you do the math, every 32 years, you should win.
That's crazy.
It's going on double that for us. And we've never been to a Super Bowl. There are 5 franchises that have never been to a Super Bowl. How is it possible one of the cornerstone franchises in the league has never made it to its signature game?
The Panthers went. The Cardinals
Like their
went.
5th year.
So we're in agreement. 70 wins going to be tough for the Cavs, and the Browns, they got to figure this out. But I want to make sure we get the GM conversation in. So let's get on, talk a little Guardians for a second, then we wrap up today's show with that general manager conversation.
Yeah, good idea.
But first, what happens when a regular day at school turns into the worst day of your life? Unfortunately, that's a reality that's happening way too frequently in today's world. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in America and in communities of color. The impact is even greater. Every bullet fired creates 2 victims, the person in front of the gun and the one pulling the trigger. Living for We, Keep Your Head Up podcast is an award-winning show that focuses on real stories, real struggles, and real solutions in Northeast Ohio. New episodes drop every other Tuesday, where you'll hear from host Marlene Harris-Taylor and her new co-host, Maisha Watkins, the executive director of the Cleveland Peacemakers. No one does a better job bringing you stories from the front lines, victims, survivors, and those fighting for change. Each episode, they sit down with a different organization that's working to end gun violence and provide resources for those affected by gun violence. Whatever kind of help you need, there's a person for you to contact. Listen to Living for We wherever you get your podcasts or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. You can learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/livingforwe. Subscribe today to Living for We on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Keeping your head up. By the way, if you don't, that ain't your theme song. You gotta have it. Why you don't got Tupac as your theme song? Y'all might have that the intro and the outro.
Well, they're watching today for sure, G, as the first day of their campaign with us, so we'll make sure they hear your request. Let's talk about the Cleveland Guardians, though, guys. Over the weekend, Zach Meisel of The Athletic wrote an article detailing Stephen Vogt's desire to test out Jose Ramirez in the 2-hole. Jose has said for the majority of his career he feels most comfortable in the 3-hole, but data shows that the number 2 hitter gets more at-bats during the season. Jay, I see you shaking your head, so I want to go last with you on this because I know you're going to disagree with the
Again,
premise.
a misuse of data. Data is only valuable if you use it properly.
Jason, I want you to start. We'll go around the horn and end with Jay. But Jason, what is your thoughts on the Cleveland Guardians experimenting with moving Jose up to the 2-hole in the lineup?
I'm curious to see why Jay is so dead against it. To me, you're trying to maximize the amount of at-bats. I get it. But what's more important to me than where Jose bats is who's batting behind him. I don't care where he bats in the lineup.
That is way more important than where he's batting.
The protection behind him, otherwise he's never going to see a pitch.
That's right.
And this is not a very deep lineup. And so Mike and I were talking about this yesterday during the Cavs game. If you bat him second, I don't care. You want to bat him second, bat him second. It's more at-bats throughout the course of the season. But who's batting third? My guess, maybe not opening day, but by the time we're into the teeth of the season, my guess would be Kyle Manzardo against righties, and
if he continues to grow,
and Thomas against lefties.
Thomas is who I'm hitting him. Thomas behind him with lefties all the time.
Yeah,
locking that in.
But this lineup gets thin quick, regardless of where Jose's hitting.
And it doesn't matter if you put him at 2, it gets thin even quicker.
And you know what may be is you start Jose's 2 on opening day or April or May or whatever. If Brian Rocchio proves to be the type of hitter that they think he can become, to me, Rocchio becomes sort of an ideal 2 hitter.
Yep, I agree.
And now you can lengthen that lineup out again.
With that.
So if you want to start Jose on opening day in the 2 spot, and I don't know who's pitching for who they open with, Kansas City. Reagans is going to be on the mound for Kansas City, so you bat Lane Thomas third. Yep. Fine, I don't care. But the Guardians are famous for this. Don't pay attention to what they look like on opening day. Pay attention to what they look like in July and August.
Well, that's way more important.
Because it's a far, usually, not always, usually it's a far different team. So I don't care where you bat them, who you batting behind him, and does he offer any sort of protection at all? That's far more important.
I agree with that. The argument to bat him 2 is centered around one piece of data. He'll get 30 more at-bats a year. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? 1 extra at-bat every 5 games? Who cares? It doesn't matter how many times he bats. What matters is how many men are on base when he bats.
Right.
And this is the not talked about piece. Who the hell's hitting behind him? Who's offering him protection?
Yep.
And it is a whole lot easier to pitch around a big bat in the 2-hole than it is the 3-hole, because you don't have to pitch to the guy immediately behind him either. You don't, because in at least for that first trip through the lineup, the potential is you're only going to have 2 men on base, so you can pitch around the 3-hitter to get to the 4-hitter if it's a better matchup. The biggest reason why you don't do it is because Jose has said he doesn't feel as comfortable doing it. Why would you go against a player, your best player's comfort zone? Would Jose do it and never say a word? Yes, he would do it. But Jose is a notorious slow starter.
That's true.
If you put him in the 2-hole in April and he does what he typically does in April, it's still going to look like it's a bad idea. To me, the time to tinker with it is in July, when everybody is warm and everybody's hitting where they normally, by that point, it's all come out in the wash. He's not hitting 210 anymore. He's hitting 270.
Yeah.
I don't think it's broken, so I don't think you need to fix it for the sake of getting him one extra at bat every 5 games.
And
they telling you that they feel a little insecure about their lineup. When you start moving your best hitter around and moving him to the 2-hole, and he says he doesn't want to be there, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who do we have to put behind him? I mean, you got Lane Thomas, Manzardo maybe, but they haven't even played him every single day.
I think Manzardo's still a question mark.
Oh,
As much as I want to say
he's having a great
arrived,
spring,
you can't put him in the, okay, we can pen him in for 20 home runs, 25 home runs, and a 280 average.
And I'm not sure that you would want to put him in the 3-hole on opening day in April.
I'm not either. It's a lot more pressure.
So it's a hard conversation because I don't know who's batting behind him. And what's funny is I just looked it up real quick to make sure because I thought this was true. The 2-hole, it's the leadoff guy the first time through, right? It's only one, but
only once.
But the thought is, well, later on in the game there could be guys on base,
and you still have the 8 and 9 hitters setting the table for
the problem with the Guardians is Stephen Kwan hit 14 home runs last year, hit a career high, and had a career low in RBIs. So why is that?
Because
there
the
was
8 and
nobody
9 guys
on base.
weren't getting on base.
There was nobody on base.
That's right.
In front
And
of
as a
him.
result of it, one of those 2 guys is gone.
Yeah. And what I'm curious to know is, and I don't know this, I literally just thought of it as we were talking about this. So Kwan hit 14 home runs. How many of his RBIs came as a result of the home runs? And how many then, I mean, obviously he scored himself
So
14.
what percentage?
How many guys were on base?
Yeah.
So if he had 44.
Take his home run RBI out of his mix, and how many did he have?
15, 20?
Not a lot, Jason.
Yeah.
The biggest gamble in the world is they are really banking on Rocchio. They really, they drank all that playoff Kool-Aid. Because you got Rocchio and Arias, right?
Well, to his credit, he did it on the biggest stage.
He did.
Yes, and
he
you know
had
what?
A great
I got to
postseason.
tell you, I was in the get rid of Rocchio camp. I
was too. I wanted Paul DeYoung here to be the shortstop for the playoffs.
I would have been fine with that. But I have to tell you, the way he performed in the playoffs last year, to me, changes everything.
And it was a confident. I mean, he had a pretty bad error in their last game, I think it was. Maybe 2, I don't remember now. But the way that he performed in that postseason should have been a big springboard for him into the offseason, into the winter. And he's carrying the confidence into the spring training
I don't know
now.
what he's hitting. I know I was watching him particularly close at the start of the spring, and he was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, good. He carried over that
They're high on
momentum.
him.
Jason, as you know, the biggest thing about doing it on that stage, look, did Bucky Dent go on to do great things after his big postseason home run? No, not really.
Yeah.
But with Rocchio, this is a guy that we all felt like it was there. We just had to scratch it.
I mean,
get it off the surface.
Our Keith Law had him as a top 25 prospect not that long ago.
Once upon a time.
And he's not going to hit 40 home runs. But if he hits 280 with 40 doubles and 18 home runs,
and
I'll
he was
take
hitting
it.
in the clutch in big spots when Jose was failing time after time after time in those spots.
That's why if he's a 2-hole hitter, now Jose slots in at 3,
yes.
and now you've got a little bit more
I
depth
think that's
to the
the way to
lineup.
go. That's the way I would
But
do it.
again, I don't know you can start Rocchio as the 2-hole hitter on opening day. That's why I wouldn't pay attention to what April looks like. It's far more important what July looks like.
I just don't understand. I don't understand. I don't get it. I know that they're not going to sign Naylor, right? Like, he had years left, right? He had 1 more year left.
Yes.
Josh had 1 year left.
And 1 year on this deal before they trade him. I'm like, listen, dude, just run it back. Like, listen, and I'm Project Stockpile. Like, if they would have just said, all right, Jimenez, listen, we get it. You had 1 year where you hit the ball. The last 2 years you've been terrible at the plate, but you're the best field. You might be one of the best position fielders in the game. You're like, okay, we'll take that. Rocchio looked like he came along. Manzardo looks like he's going to get some more minutes this year. Listen, Bazzana might be up at the end of the year. I'm like, okay, well, just say we're going to stay young and figure out Jimenez after this year, and we'll let Naylor walk.
It might have been too late. They had to get off Jimenez's future money. They had to do it now because another poor year from him offensively, it may have been too late.
Rocchio's hitting 300 this spring. I know it's spring training before anybody jumps down my throat about that. But Manzardo's having a great spring.
Yes, he is.
He's got 3 home runs. He's hitting 368. Look, this may play itself out, but I can get very excited about a Kwan, Rocchio, Ramirez, either Lane Thomas
Carlos Santana.
or Kyle Manzardo, then Carlos Santana. That, to me, I can see us. That to me is a lineup that can compete for a playoff spot. But when you put Jose, you said it, when you put Jose in the 2, this lineup gets thin quick.
Yes.
When your best hitter is out of the way, at the 2 slot?
That's a long way
Who
away.
are you worried
Yeah.
about after
It's
him?
a lot different. The Yankees have the luxury of hitting Aaron Judge second because of who else they have.
Jason, when this was going on, I said, the Yankees are ruining baseball. When he was chasing the home runs 2 years ago, and they put him in the leadoff spot,
Yep.
I said, I was shocked because I don't think that was an Aaron Boone move. Not the Aaron Boone that I worked with and had a billion baseball conversations with and really got to know.
Yeah.
To me, I said, that's got to be a front office move or Aaron actually asked them to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't make much sense to me. Now, all the numbers geeks love to add, oh, well, look at the extra at-bat. Okay, so if the 2-hitter gets more at-bats, and the number is like 30, gets more at-bats than the 3-hitter, shouldn't the 2-hitter have more RBI? In baseball, as a total.
Mm-hmm.
No, the 3-hitter has more RBIs than the 2-hitter in just about every lineup. So it just doesn't make sense to me. It's the misuse of data.
I get
and
the
baseball's
idea.
done that before.
I get the idea. It's just like we talk about with the Cavs rotations in the end. You want your best guys get the most playing time. You want your best hitters to have the most opportunities. I get that. That makes sense. I would have no issue with Jose hitting second if they had 3 or 4 more viable, fearsome major league hitters to bat behind them. Right now, they don't.
I agree. But now, if you're going to do it on an aggregate, and that's what they're doing, he mentioned in his discussion about it was, well, we could get him 30 more at-bats a year. Okay, if you're going to aggregate the at-bat numbers, also aggregate the ducks on the pond number.
Yeah.
So tell me, how many RBI opportunities does the average 2-hitter get in a season compared to the average 3-hitter? I don't know that number. I don't have it in front of me. I would be stunned if it isn't significantly higher for the 3-hitters. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
And you're counting on your 8 and 9 guys in the lineup to get on base second, third, and fourth times through the lineup. And we get really thin at 8 and 9.
Yes.
Not just kind of thin.
Yes.
We're like, there will be days when we're Austin Hedges thin at 9.
And if Bo Naylor bounces back, and again, that's a guy they have high expectations for offensively.
Yep.
If he can bounce back and be just an average major league catcher offensively, and they think his ceiling's a lot higher than that helps a lot. But that's the reason why Quan had 44 RBIs last year out of the leadoff spot because there was nobody on base. And he hit a career high in home runs.
That means
because there's nobody on base.
If all of his home runs weren't solo shots.
Of course.
He probably had a minimum of 28 RBI off of his home runs.
I'd say at least 20.
Which meant that means the majority of his home runs were solo shots. Yeah. Now, some of them were. He's a leadoff hitter. But even if it was 20, that means that a guy who flirted with 400 and finished near 300 had only 24 RBI
And
off non-home runs the entire season on a team that scored runs like crazy.
So
you have no idea what you're going to do with Arias. No plate appearances. Go ahead.
I was able to find the home runs.
Yeah.
Of his 14, 11 were solo shots.
That's sick.
And 3 were 2-run home runs.
Okay, so you can do the math then. That's
17.
11, 13, 15, 17.
Yeah. 17.
Well, here's the
So he had
frightening thing
27
about
RBIs,
that.
not counting his
All
home
those
runs.
weren't leadoff home runs.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Of course they weren't. The vast majority came later in the game.
But I'm saying he
so
drove
if that's
in 20.
the case,
he
look
drove
how
in
many times he
27
came
runs.
to the plate with no one on base.
He drove in 27 runs.
So the
not
best
counting
you're
home
hoping
runs.
for with Jose is that he'll bat with one man on base. You're going to have a season with him where he has 27 home runs and 55 RBI. That's not doable.
Yeah.
It's just not. Did I sway you?
No, I don't care where he hits. Just give me protection behind him.
Okay. Yeah.
That's been my thing all along. Just make sure that there's something behind him, or he's not going to see a pitch all year.
Yeah. That's true.
This is struggle for runs year.
I hope not.
No, I
think they'll be okay.
I mean, again, people are so tired of Gabi Arias, and I get it. but I'm telling you, he had a phenomenal winter ball.
Yeah.
He hit a pitch. He hit a pitch out the other day. I saw a clip on the black outside, flicked it over the fence in right field. Wow. Like it was a really good at bat. And if
He got talent.
He could throw it through the wall. He's got the best arm of anybody.
Hey, did you guys talk about signing Naquin as a pitcher?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay,
Briefly.
I was off that day. Did anybody like the move as just a flyer?
It's fun. Yeah,
fun.
absolutely.
I liked it.
It's a
All right,
guardian
Jay, you
move.
teased this general manager conversation twice, so let's dive into it after a quick reminder that today's episode is brought to us by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes, also easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global visions, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That is easierwithepicor.com. We alluded to this earlier. Jay, you teased it twice. But let's look at the general manager position across sports. We have Kobe Altman with the Cavs, Andrew Berry with the Browns, Chernoff and Antonetti with the Guardians. It's not just specifically those 3 or 4 guys. We're taking this big picture. But Jay, I'll start with you. Of the 3 main professional sports, which job do you think is the hardest, or which sport do you think it is the hardest to be the general manager of a team in?
Okay, I'm going to go backwards, and I'll say the easiest, in my view, is baseball, because you can spend however much money you want. And so if you happen to be the general manager of, say, the Dodgers or the Mets, how hard is it to go out and sign Soto in the offseason if you got the checkbook for it? There's no restrictions. There's no limitations. The NBA and the NFL both have huge spending limitations. I think the NBA more than the NFL. And for that reason, and because the NFL is set up to be built through the draft, and it's punitive to be good in the NFL in the draft, I say it's hardest to be a great NBA general manager, particularly now, because there are so many guardrails up now in terms of spending, and it is difficult to build through the draft when you get 2 guys a year. I just think it's NBA, and I'm really curious to see where you guys go with this.
Now you say what is the hardest? To me, I think the most difficult is, and it's very close, I think the most difficult is the NFL. And the reason I'll give you this is why. Because I think more than anybody, NFL general managers have the shortest leash. I feel like you get a couple of years, and then you're linked to people. Some organizations have you linked with the coach. Like here in Cleveland, it seems like Kevin Stefanski was hired. Kevin Stefanski was hired before Andrew Berry, right? And they seem to be kind of getting contracts at the same time, so they're kind of linked. There are also parts of the organization where analytics are involved and people think that they report to Dee Podesta, another guy who's not there. Then you get into the situation where you have ownership. If you have a great owner, like you look at it and you have the Rooneys or some of the other people like in Kansas City, or you could have Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, you could have Jimmy Haslam. You could have a bunch of different things. And if you ain't got a quarterback, you dead out here. So you got to get a lot of things right. You got to hit on the quarterback. You got to have a decent owner. You got to have, the infrastructure where you can get along with people. I think that in basketball, if you just straight up luck up and get LeBron, you're good. You luck up and you get Kevin Durant, you're pretty good. Baseball, like you said, all you need is the money. How good is the Dodgers general manager?
Yeah, well,
I could do that job.
With a checkbook like that, it's easy to look good.
Right. So I'm gonna go with the
You're
NFL.
going NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball.
Yes.
How do you rank it?
I texted this morning. This is funny. I texted 2 gentlemen who were both in that chair at one time.
Okay.
And different sports.
Yep.
And said, having some fun today as a topic on the show. What do you think? And both of them, in various forms, guess what the answer was? Take a guess.
Baseball?
Based on the fact that I said baseball was the
Right.
easiest, they probably said
hardest.
baseball's the hardest.
They both said the one with the bad owner.
That's a good one.
That is the
So
true
how
great
about that,
answer.
right?
No,
How
that
about
is
that?
the true
That's
great
where
answer.
both of them went, was the one with the bad
Wow,
owner.
that's fascinating.
Owners drive so much of this conversation that we don't pay any
Yeah, because when
attention
you
to.
were saying in the NFL you have to deal with owners, I thought, well, hell, NBA and
Right.
Major League
That-
Baseball
that-
have
you gotta
owners
deal
too.
with owners.
Yes.
You gotta deal
And you
with
can have a
owners.
meddlesome owner like the old George Steinbrenner,
Or a new owner that want to make a splash like with the Suns.
or a cheap owner that
Yeah.
doesn't have a checkbook.
I actually wrote this in the Myles piece that I wrote. I know executives, particularly in the NBA, who have passed on GM jobs because of the owner wouldn't spend.
Yeah.
And if you have an owner who notoriously won't spend,
You can't win.
You can't win.
Right, you
So
can't.
they just passed on the job. So
Wow.
spending is critically important. Okay, so let's set that aside, right?
But I
And get
love
back.
that answer, and I do think that is the right answer.
It was an incredible. It
yeah.
blew my mind.
It's funny as two different guys from two different sports went the same way.
The same way.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, remove the ownership and look at it on its whole.
Yeah.
First of all, there is no such thing as easy to me. All of these are incredibly difficult.
Yeah,
jobs.
that's true. I've just ranked them in terms of difficult level.
I said NFL. I thought NFL was the hardest because it's a 53-man roster that you're responsible for, plus the practice squad. You have 135, 3 Division I teams that you're scouting.
Yep.
So it's such a wide field that
Plus the cap.
plus the cap you have to negotiate
Yeah.
and everything else. But just from the sheer number standpoint, NBA is it's 450 players. Now the trick with the NBA is you literally have to go all over the world to find players. You go to Greece, you go to France. France is a hotbed now. You can go.
Yeah, with the NFL, you're just looking at college.
NFL, you're looking in America. We're not at that point yet where you're going overseas. You're looking in America for
Right.
the baseball. It's primarily the Dominican.
Yeah.
You have the whole minor leagues you have to deal with, but you have a farm director for that, and the NFL guys have support staffs as well. I totally get that. But baseball, you have a job like one of your lieutenants. His only job is the farm and directing the farm and the farm teams. And now baseball has cut back on the number of farm teams that they had from years ago. So I would rank it probably NFL, MLB, NBA.
Wow. Even with the spending restrictions in the NBA.
Yeah, because it's only 450 people you're responsible for. And if you get it right, you can turn it fast. But if you get it wrong, and that was Mike's point when we were talking earlier, if you get it wrong, it exposes you fast too. But I just think just the sheer mass, plus with the MLB, there's such a variance. You're scouting college kids who are using aluminum bats. The game changes when it's the one sport where the equipment literally changes.
Yeah, and the biggest piece of the equipment.
And it's hard to project with some of these guys.
But wouldn't you say this? When you're at the Mets, Dodgers spending level, you don't have to
But you know
recruit
what? You know what the
kids.
Dodgers don't get enough credit for? Their farm system is unbelievable.
Well, it is now.
and that's not spending.
No, it is now. But if you look at the guys on their roster, they're not homegrown.
Yes.
And they're all making $30 million
Yes,
a year.
of course. Yes,
So
that makes
if you have the right owner that says, yeah, unlimited funds, then all you're doing is replenishing the guys that are aging out of your roster with other young superstars.
But that's one job. And I'll give you the Mets too. That's 2 jobs.
2.
What about everybody else?
Well,
Chris
that goes back
Antonetti
to-
doesn't have the same
That goes
job.
back to your original answer. It's about the owner.
It's about the owner.
Like if the owner is giving you unlimited tools.
But that's only 1 or 2 in
And
every
there's only
sport.
one sport where the owner can give you unlimited tools.
There's only one Jimmy Haslam in the NFL who will spend whatever it takes, and they have 0
And
playoff
still suck.
wins. They spent $1 billion in 4 years
Now,
and no playoff
is
wins.
this me or just it just seems that Major League Baseball there's more job security? Like
No, not at all.
I feel like I don't see general
That's because you're
managers
in Cleveland.
getting fired every
See,
week.
we don't. Well, two things there. One, in Cleveland, we've had incredible consistency because they've been great.
Yeah.
But
And they have an owner who stays the hell out of the way.
yes, when you go to other markets, they're changing GMs regularly.
Yeah.
You know, go to
I mean, Cashman's been in New York for a long time. That's an anomaly.
different. And
But
stunning that he's lasted.
I
as long
would
as he
I would
has.
be curious at the average life shelf of these guys.
I would think
but-
the NFL is by far the shortest.
I think baseball's hard because in basketball the ball's the same, the hoops are still 10 feet. You have to project how guys are going to grow and develop, just like the NFL. How much bigger can this guy get?
Right.
The game doesn't change; it's still 100 yards. Baseball, literally, the game changes, the equipment changes, and trying to project how many guys have we seen? Spencer Torkelson's one example of a litany of guys who just mash in college, and they get to the major leagues and they can't hit. Whether it's the wood.
Different ball in football though, isn't the
Yeah, it's
NFL
a little smaller.
bigger?
It's actually smaller, but it's almost identical weight, but it is small, just a little smaller.
Yeah, it's
Not
basically the same. It's not like
it is smaller. So quarterback hand size does matter. In the NBA, the 3-point line's a little different.
the college. No, it's the same.
College is the
No,
it's-
no,
it's-
NBA's deeper.
Yeah, the NBA's deeper
They
than college.
changed the college rules to make women's and men's the same, but it's
Right.
still.
But
No.
the men's,
Oh, you're right.
But the
You're right, because
three-point
the two
line
lines
is
on the
farther.
court. You're
But
right.
that's small.
You're
That's
right.
not like the baseball bat.
These dudes
the
are hitting
bat
shots
in
from half
baseball
court.
has a lot to do with it. It's so much easier to swing a 26-ounce
Yeah.
bat.
And the volatility of the pitcher, like these can't miss pitchers who then blow out their arms and they're
Sure.
never the same.
And-
the volatility of injuries in baseball, and now every sport has.
And I
those,
think,
but it's worse in baseball.
when you say volatility, there's more volatility in player temperament. Like, you got to think about it. If you draft somebody who's a franchise quarterback, you have to have understand, like, okay, is he going to spaz out, or a receiver, or in college or basketball, McNuggets, we was talking about it. Like, there's no rhyme or reason why somebody comes from college and becomes really good. Like guys that you didn't expect to be good, like Giannis. Like you can't predict that. Like Tyrese Maxey, no one
tough.
thought it's tough.
the
but
bandwidth thing is a good point with
Yeah.
the NBA too. You better be scouting the corners of every.
You got to go.
country
You
now.
got to be. You got to be in Europe as much as you're in the U.S.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
So-
Mikey, how do you rank them?
Yeah, so I asked Bull. I want to give Bull's answers first.
Yeah.
And Bull said he thought baseball was the toughest because of a lot of things that you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
So many different players, minor league systems, keeping track of tabs. Guys may look good in spring training, not translate. Guys can get hot for 3 months and then completely fall off a cliff. Guys from one season to the next,
Sure.
great, and then not. What do you do? How do you predict that kind of stuff? I thought, and I may have actually changed my answer during this discussion. I thought it was football by a slight margin because quarterback's the most important position in the entire world of sports.
No question.
And the best people in the world, the people that are hired to do this at the highest of levels, have like a 35 to 40% hit rate on first-round quarterbacks.
Sure.
So the hardest position is damn near impossible
You know
to
what's
figure
awesome?
out.
Do you guys mess around with AI at all?
A little bit.
This would be a perfect.
I think I'm writing this. If you're going with it,
Okay, what I would do for this, and I've been messing around with AI, and there's a way you can say, so you ask AI, write as a journalist a compare and contrast piece on the levels of difficulty between being a baseball general manager, NFL, or NBA, and make it 1,200 words. And I've done this on a number of topics. I've done it. The most recent one I did it on was who's the greatest baseball player of all time. Write it as a journalist. It blew my mind.
yeah.
Jason, it even threw in at the end. Now, don't forget Shohei Ohtani. And here's the argument for Ohtani.
Yeah.
And it mentions all the obvious, the Babe Ruths,
Yeah.
the Barry Bonds,
Yeah.
Ken Griffey, I think was mentioned. It mentions all these reasons why this player might be it. And at the very end, as an addendum, it said, although it's far too early in the discussion,
Yeah.
a player like Shohei Ohtani, if he can arc this out through a long enough career, would likely be the correct answer to this question. It was written on a New York Times level, Jason.
what you gonna do, Jason? Y'all better figure something out.
Oh, we're going away. But
Sadly, I feel we all are.
I was. I think this week I wanted to do it before I left for vacation. I didn't get to it. Do an AI story on all of these top quarterbacks and what does AI project their career numbers to be. Just
it's
have
going
fun
to
with
blow
it.
you away, Jason.
But real
And
quick-
by the way, it spit this article out. I think I asked it to write a 1,200 word piece
in
on
10 seconds. What did you
like-
use? ChatGPT?
No, I used the one that our company is kind of aligning
okay.
itself with. The
Okay.
name, I got it bookmarked upstairs. It did it in seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I was, when I first started reading it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be filled with mistakes. It's not going to be grammatically correct.
No.
I'm like, this would pass
Yeah,
any
some of them are pretty
of the
dangerous.
most strict editor's eye test.
To Mike's point, though, about quarterbacks, what's really funny to me, I think we would all agree Jerry Jones is a horrendous general manager of an NFL team.
Owner.
Yeah, and GM.
But
He's the
yeah,
GM.
he's the GM.
That dude runs into mid-round quarterbacks like nobody else. Tony Romo, Dak Prescott.
I know.
Wow.
Browns can't find one in the first
what's
round.
What's interesting about that is that's the hardest piece to get right,
Yeah,
and he's gotten that right.
He's gotten it.
But he can't get everything
Got it with
else
Romo.
right.
Got it with Prescott.
That is
middle round guys.
Yeah,
like
and Romo
Cowboys
came
look at
from
this-
like Southern Illinois.
Yeah, I know.
Eastern Illinois. yeah.
Eastern Illinois. I mean, at least Dak came from Mississippi or Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right, we got super chats to wrap up today's show. By the way, we asked the chat. They said NFL. 65% went with the NFL is the hardest GM job. But all right, super chats for this St. Patrick's Day edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Christian says we can't have a, well, that's not Kev's guy type of season this year. Which I think goes back to him identifying a quarterback.
Yes,
he likes.
he can't afford to have one of them. Oh, it wasn't. I didn't have the right tools.
Nope. That's out the window.
DB Dog 21 says, don't be surprised if Andrew Berry swindles 2 first-round picks in April.
I don't think that's a swindle.
It's not.
that wouldn't be.
That's a cost.
Can I say something maybe a little hot takey? I think it's over 50% they end up with 2 first-round picks.
I mean, it's not that hard.
Not
when
even
you got
surprised.
33,
I would expect.
33, yeah.
It's not that hard to go from 33 to 32
And
or 33 to 31.
I mean, the cost of that can't be
29.
more than like a 5th-round pick, can it?
I don't know what the chart says, but yeah, it wouldn't be much.
Yeah.
I anticipate them getting 2 first-round
Yeah.
picks. When we leave Thursday night, I think we'll come into Friday's show with 2 guys to talk about. All right, next up, Philip Chambers says, make fun of the Browns every chance you get. Fans, ? LOL.
No, not a fan. Said that before. Thanks for noticing.
No, listen, I'm a fan, but I'm gonna make fun of you until you win, bro. It is what it is. Like, ain't nothing to be happy about.
They are a 3-14 car crash, and they've given 2 of the most expensive contracts to guys that said, I don't want to be here. What would you like us to say?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Hey, but if you give me a quarterback, I will drink some Kool-Aid.
By the way, ChatGTP says being a general manager in the NFL, NBA, or MLB all come with unique challenges, but MLB is likely the most difficult due to the complexity of roster management, player development, and financial constraints.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, the financial constraints, this is what I didn't weigh in. And it comes back to your answer, is the right answer. If you're the general manager of a team with huge financial constraints, the haves and have-nots gap is not greater than it is in baseball.
Right.
So from that perspective, for the majority of the teams, I can see why they would go that way. Yeah.
All right, 2 more super chats. PD Pete says, Jay, the Browns would have to trade for Cousins now, and the Falcons.
Yes.
Let me restart. Jay, the Browns would have to trade for Cousins now and get Atlanta to pay most of his salary since he didn't get released.
Yes, that's a fact, and that's the only way it can happen. Because the Browns aren't going to be able to pay all of his salary. The Falcons would save money by agreeing to pay a portion of his salary.
Yeah, but they're paying $5 million for what, a 5th-round pick or 4th? You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I understand. It doesn't make sense, but they're in a situation where they've got to do some nonsensical things.
I tend to believe they're just going to keep him because
if they do,
because of the
I got to tell
volatility
you,
of the quarterback position.
if they do, they've made 2 of the most quizzical moves the last year that I've ever seen a franchise make.
For as much as they got crushed for taking Penix, it's a good thing they took Michael Penix, or where would they be right now?
Well, we don't know where they're going to be with Michael Penix.
Right.
The
But
bag
they've
on
got
him
an
was
option.
mixed.
And
But
that's
they've
why
got
they're
an
keeping
option.
him.
They have an option, but at the expense of paying the highest price tag by far in the history of the sport for a backup quarterback.
That just
And
goes to
that's
show
why
you.
when they made that move last year, I said, I don't know what they're doing.
Wait, one last super chat, then I have a question about that. But let me get this last one in. JB says, look at Micah Prize, 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 from minor leagues, pedigree of attending the same high school as Austin Hedges.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. I don't know what that
To the most expensive backup, does Deshaun count as a backup?
Well, technically he's going to be on the injured list. So, yeah, I mean, he's not a starter. But
no, to me, he doesn't count because he's out for the year.
And
next year, he
would be a backup.
Next year, if he's on this roster,
But
which
this
I
year
don't
he's
think
not.
he will be. But next year, if he were on the roster, he would
that's
count.
why it's almost like the Falcons are doubling down on that decision.
I think that they look at the scarcity of quarterbacks and say we want protection.
And they do not want to get
They're
in
paying
trouble.
for it.
They are paying for it.
Now, they've got one quarterback on a rookie deal, so you can look at
That's
it this
it.
way. We're paying Cousins the rookie deal, and we're paying Penix, the
backup.
You know, so it's kind of flipped the roles there, but they can still get him. There's still a world in which Atlanta trades him and still agrees to pay a big portion of his salary.
But for what? For a fourth round pick? Like, is it really that valuable?
No.
At that point, I'd rather have the veteran backup quarterback.
Then go that route.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
hope
what
your
they're
guy.
gonna do.
You know, if you still have to hope your guy doesn't get hurt. I'm not convinced that Penix is the starter.
We're talking
is the answer,
NCAA
rather.
tournament brackets in overtime. Be safe.
Are we going to do a bracket sheet for the show?
Yeah, we're going to figure that out in overtime.
Okay.
That's actually what we're going to talk about. The parade's going on downtown. Be safe and enjoy your St. Patrick's Day. Peace.